This is the story of an ordinary boy named Tanjiro Kamado, who lives with his family in a cold, mountainous region of Japan. His family is very poor, so every morning, Tanjiro goes into the forest, cuts wood, and turns it into charcoal to sell, just so he can support his household. Tanjiro has a very kind heart. He always helps others and deeply loves his family. His mother and younger siblings mean everything to him. The small moments he spends with them are the greatest happiness of his life. One day, just like always, Tanjiro goes to the town to sell charcoal. After working hard all day, he starts heading back home in the evening. On his way, an old man stops him and warns him not to travel through the forest at night, saying that demons roam there after dark. At first, Tanjiro thinks it's just a superstition, but the old man insists, so he decides to stay at his house for the night. He falls asleep peacefully, not knowing that the next morning is going to change his life forever. As soon as the sun rises, Tanjiro rushes back toward his home. But as he gets closer, he starts to feel something strange. There's a scent in the air, a disturbing scent, the smell of blood. When he enters his house, the ground beneath his feet feels like it disappears. His entire family is lying there, covered in blood. There is complete silence, and his loved ones are no longer alive. Tanjiro completely breaks down. Tears won't stop flowing from his eyes. He tries to shake his family, hoping they will wake up, but no one responds. Then suddenly, he feels a slight movement. His younger sister, Nezuko, is still alive. A small spark of hope lights up inside him. Without wasting a second, he lifts Nezuko onto his back and runs toward the village, hoping to save her. But something strange starts happening on the way. Nezuko's body begins to change. Her breathing becomes heavy, her eyes start glowing red, and her teeth turn sharp. Tanjiro realizes something is terribly wrong. Suddenly, Nezuko attacks him. She has turned into a demon. Tanjiro is terrified, but he refuses to hurt his sister. He tries to stop her, to calm her down. It's a heartbreaking moment. On one side is his beloved sister, and on the other, that same sister is trying to kill him. But Tanjiro doesn't give up. He uses all his strength to hold her back. At that moment, a powerful warrior arrives, Giyu Tomioka. He's a demon slayer, someone whose duty is to kill demons. The moment he sees Nezuko, he understands that she has become one. Without hesitation, Giyu moves forward to kill her, but Tanjiro stands in front of him. He begs him to spare his sister. In his eyes, there is pain, fear, and hope. Giyu initially sees Tanjiro as weak, but then he witnesses something shocking. Nezuko, even after becoming a demon, does not eat her brother. Instead, she protects him. She is fighting against her own demon instincts. Seeing this, Giyu is stunned. He has never seen a demon like this before, one that still holds on to its humanity. He decides not to kill her. Giyu then shows Tanjiro a new path. He tells him that if he truly wants to save his sister, he must become stronger. He must become a demon slayer and fight against the demons of this world. Hearing this, Tanjiro makes a life-changing decision. He is ready to do anything to save his sister. He accepts Giyu's words and begins a new journey. Now, he has only one goal in life: to avenge his family and turn his sister back into a human. An ordinary and kind boy has now stepped into a dangerous world. His journey won't be easy. He will face pain, struggles, and countless battles. But inside him burns a strong determination. And that determination will one day make him one of the greatest demon slayers. And this is where Tanjiro's real story begins. A story filled with pain, strength, and hope. Tanjiro is running through the mountains, carrying Nezuko on his back. The cold wind hits his face, but he doesn't stop. His breathing is heavy. His body is exhausted. But there's only one thought in his mind. I have to save Nezuko. He is heading toward Mount Sagiri. To protect Nezuko from sunlight, he made a bamboo basket for her. He walks under the burning sun himself, but keeps her safe. On the way, a farmer offers him a basket and supplies. The farmer refuses to take money, but Tanjiro insists and pays anyway, because no matter how broken he is, his heart is still pure. Night falls. Tanjiro hides Nezuko inside the basket and continues through the forest. The forest is silent. Then suddenly, Tanjiro stops. He smells the air. This scent? It's blood. He runs toward an old temple. He opens the door, and what he sees is terrifying. A demon, eating human flesh. The demon looks at Tanjiro and smiles. Another prey. The demon attacks. Tanjiro swings his axe with full force. It hits the demon's neck, but the wound heals instantly. Tanjiro is shocked. Why isn't it dying? The demon grabs his throat. Tanjiro struggles to breathe. Then, Nezuko jumps out of the basket and delivers a powerful kick. The demon's head is separated from its body. For a moment, everything is silent. But then, the severed head opens its eyes again. Its body attacks once more. Tanjiro is stunned, but this time, he doesn't panic. He thinks quickly. He grabs the head and pins it to a tree using his axe. The demon struggles. Tanjiro takes out a knife, but his hand stops. Is it right to kill like this? Then, a voice comes from behind. You're too slow. Tanjiro turns around. A man stands there, wearing a red Tengu mask. It is Urokodaki. His gaze is sharp. His voice is calm. He asks Tanjiro, if your sister kills a human, what will you do? Tanjiro stays silent. He has no answer. Suddenly, Urokodaki slaps him. Your decisions are too slow. If you want to protect someone, you must become stronger. Sunlight begins to rise. The light touches the demon. It screams and turns into ashes. For the first time, Tanjiro understands. The sun is their weakness. Urokodaki looks at him. Come with me, if you truly want to become strong. Night again. At the top of the mountain, Urokodaki leaves Tanjiro there. If you reach my house before sunrise, I will train you. Tanjiro nods and starts running. But this path is not easy. Traps are everywhere. Flying stones, hidden pits, sharp wooden spikes. Tanjiro falls, gets injured. His body starts to give up, but he keeps going. I won't give up. He remembers his family and Nezuko. He starts using his sense of smell. Now, he can feel the traps before they come. Slowly, he begins to avoid them. He is covered in blood. His clothes are torn, but his will is strong. And finally, just before sunrise, he reaches the door. He collapses. Urokodaki opens the door, looks at him, and pulls him close. Tanjiro Kamado, I accept you. A boy who lost everything is now stepping into a new path of power. But the real battle has just begun. Will he be able to save his sister? Or will this path consume him in darkness? To find out.
Tanjiro has now arrived at Mount Sagiri with Sakonji Urokodaki. From the outside, this mountain looks calm and silent, but hidden inside it are painful training sessions, deadly tests, and the path that turns an ordinary human into a demon slayer. Urokodaki looks at Tanjiro and immediately understands something. This boy has fire in his heart, but his body is still weak. His willpower is strong, but demons are not killed by willpower alone. For that, he needs speed, focus, control, and a breathing style powerful enough to turn his entire body into a weapon. But Urokodaki does not hand him a sword right away. First, he wants to break Tanjiro's courage, so he can rebuild him into something much stronger. That is why he leaves Tanjiro alone on top of the mountain in the middle of the night. A dark forest all around, freezing wind, and eerie silence, and only one path leading downward. Urokodaki says, if you make it to my house alive before sunrise, only then will I train you. And after saying that, he disappears. At first, Tanjiro thinks, all I have to do is climb down. But the moment he takes his first step, he realizes this is no ordinary mountain. There are traps everywhere. Heavy logs suddenly come crashing down from trees. The ground collapses beneath his feet. Sharp wooden spikes appear without warning. Tanjiro escapes one trap, only to get caught in another. His body starts getting cut and bruised everywhere. His hands are scraped open, his clothes are torn, his breathing becomes heavier and heavier. But he knows one thing. If he gives up here, Nezuko's future ends here too. That is when Tanjiro uses a very special ability inside him, his sense of smell. He smells the air, smells the soil, and slowly begins to realize that every trap leaves behind a different scent before it activates. The smell of wood, the smell of iron, the smell of freshly moved dirt. Little by little, Tanjiro starts identifying those scents and begins avoiding the traps as he makes his way down. after fighting through an entire night of pain, freezing cold, blood, and fear. Tanjiro finally reaches Urokodaki's house before sunrise. His body is exhausted, but there is no defeat in his eyes. For the first time, Urokodaki truly studies him. He understands that this boy is not just stubborn, he is capable of learning. And now, the real training begins. Every single day, Tanjiro is given a new test. Sometimes he has to run across steep mountains for hours. Sometimes he has to carry massive stones. Sometimes he must endure non-stop strikes from a wooden sword. Sometimes he has to maintain balance while falling and moving at high speed. Urokodaki pushes him without mercy. Again and again, Tanjiro falls to the ground. Again and again, his body begins to give up. But Urokodaki never lets him rest, because he wants this boy to make pain his daily companion. Days turn into weeks. Weeks slowly turn into months. Tanjiro's body starts becoming stronger than before. His steps become faster. His senses become sharper. But even then, he still has not reached the level he needs. Urokodaki knows physical strength alone is not enough. So he begins teaching him something far more important. Total concentration breathing. A breathing technique where every single breath fills the body with energy. Breathing correctly controls the heartbeat, gives maximum strength to the muscles, and keeps the mind calm. At first, Tanjiro cannot understand it. He keeps losing rhythm. Sometimes he breathes too fast. Sometimes panic takes over him. Sometimes his body movements lose balance. But slowly, after endless practice, he starts understanding that every movement of his body is connected to his breathing. Now Urokodaki begins sparring with him using wooden swords. Every time Tanjiro attacks, Urokodaki blocks it with ease. Every time Tanjiro charges forward, he gets knocked down. Tanjiro becomes frustrated. No matter how hard he trains, he still feels far behind. There are many nights when he sits alone, looking toward Nezuko sleeping nearby, and whispers to himself, "I have to become stronger." Time keeps passing. The seasons change. Snow begins to fall. Cold winds tear through the forest. Still, Tanjiro never stops training. Blisters cover his hands. Scars begin marking his body. But his eyes now carry more determination than ever before. And then one day, Urokodaki gives him a new challenge. He takes Tanjiro deep into the forest, where a gigantic boulder sits in silence. It is so huge that the moment Tanjiro sees it, he understands one thing: this is impossible. In a calm voice, Urokodaki says, "If you can cut this rock in half, only then are you worthy of final selection." Tanjiro is stunned. How can any human cut a boulder this massive? But he has no time to question it. He pulls out a real sword now, and begins trying. First strike, nothing. Second strike, nothing. Third strike, still nothing. Days pass. The sun rises. The sun sets. And Tanjiro keeps striking the boulder with all his strength. But all he leaves behind are tiny scratches. His confidence starts breaking apart. Maybe I will never become a demon slayer. And in the middle of that despair, one day, he sees two mysterious children. A boy and a girl. Both strangely calm. The boy challenges Tanjiro with a wooden sword. Tanjiro attacks and loses. He attacks again and loses again. Every single time, he loses. But after every defeat, the boy points out his mistakes. Your breathing is wrong. Your stance is weak. Your timing is slow. Meanwhile, the girl teaches him rhythm, patience, and control. Tanjiro cannot understand who these two children really are. But because of them, his skill slowly begins to change. Now, before every strike, he controls his breathing. He feels the pressure in his feet. He focuses on the exact direction of his blade. Little by little, his confidence begins returning. Now he no longer sees the boulder as a rock. He sees it as the wall of his own weakness. And he knows, if this wall breaks, he will be reborn. Then finally, that day arrives. Cold morning wind moves through the trees. Tanjiro stands silently before the boulder. His eyes close. He takes one deep breath. Total concentration, breathing. His entire body becomes steady. The sword is gripped firmly in both hands. Images of his family flash through his mind. Nezuko's face appears before him. And in the very next second, Tanjiro opens his eyes. He rushes forward with lightning speed. and swings with every ounce of strength he has. For 1 second, everything becomes silent. Then, crash. The massive boulder splits cleanly into 2 pieces. Tanjiro stands there frozen. His breathing is heavy, his body is shaking, but for the first time, there is peace in his eyes. Because he did not just cut a rock, he cut through his own weakness. Urokodaki watches from a distance, and a faint smile appears on his face. Now he knows. This boy is ready. It is night. Cold wind moves through the mountains. Half a moon hangs in the sky, and beneath it stands Tanjiro. In front of him is a giant gate. This is the entrance to final selection. 7 days. That is all he has to survive inside this mountain. But inside this mountain are demons starving for human flesh. Demons that know every corner of this forest like hunters. The moment Tanjiro steps inside, the gate behind him slams shut. With that sound, the path back disappears. All around him is a dense forest, tall trees, dry leaves on the ground, and a silence so deep that even his own heartbeat feels frightening. Tanjiro grips his sword tightly. He understands now, this is not training, this is a battle to stay alive. There are other candidates around him. Some try to look brave, some are clearly terrified, but Tanjiro stops. He takes a deep breath, smells the air, and sharpens his hearing. Because he knows, in a place like this, panic kills first. So he moves carefully. Every step measured, every sound noticed. For a while, there is only silence, but then a loud scream tears through the night. One of the candidates has been attacked. Final selection has begun. Tanjiro instantly runs toward the sound, and then he sees it. A demon, tall, twisted, and starving. Its claws are buried into the body of a terrified candidate. Without wasting a second, Tanjiro pulls out his Nichiren sword and swings with full force. The demon jumps back, then locks its eyes onto Tanjiro, and a disgusting smile spreads across its face. The next second, the demon lunges. Its claws come straight for Tanjiro's throat. Tanjiro ducks at the last possible moment. Death passes inches from his neck. He spins and strikes back. And in that moment, Tanjiro understands for the first time. Real demons are not practice dummies. They are unpredictable, merciless, and one mistake can end everything. The demon attacks again. This time, the force is so heavy that Tanjiro slides backward. His hands shake. Fear starts rising in his chest, but then he controls his breathing. Deep breath in, slow breath out. His mind begins to calm down. The demon's rotten smell grows stronger each time it changes direction. Tanjiro reads that scent, steps aside, turns, and slashes with all his strength across the neck. For 1 second, the demon stands still. Then its head drops. Tanjiro is breathing hard. His hands are shaking, because for the first time he has killed a demon alone with his own strength. But there is no time to celebrate, because something far worse is waiting deeper inside this forest. The night has grown darker. Tanjiro keeps moving. Broken weapons, bloodstains, and drag marks are scattered everywhere. This forest is swallowing candidates one by one. Then Tanjiro catches a strange smell. Old blood, rotten flesh, and underneath it, hatred. His entire body freezes. He slowly turns around, and the moment he sees what is standing there, his breath stops. A gigantic demon, abnormally huge arms, a horrifying smile, and its entire body wrapped in dozens of human hands. This is the Hand Demon. It looks at Tanjiro and starts laughing loudly. Its laugh echoes through the trees like death mocking him. Then it talks about eating children, killing candidates, and enjoying their fear. Tanjiro realizes immediately, this demon is not just hungry, it is cruel. And suddenly it attacks. Its massive arm crashes down like a whip. Tanjiro jumps back. The ground where he was standing explodes. Dust rises, trees shake. Tanjiro tries to create distance, but the Hand Demon is far faster than something that huge should be. One arm, then another, then another. Every strike forces Tanjiro to keep dodging. He swings his sword at one arm. It cuts, but the demon keeps laughing. For the first time, Tanjiro truly feels pressure. His body is telling him to run, but there is nowhere to run. So Tanjiro clenches his teeth. He takes a deep breath, total concentration, heartbeat steady, eyes sharp. If his strength is not enough, then his strike must be perfect. The hand demon lifts both arms and slams them down together. This time, Tanjiro does not move back. He charges forward, ducks beneath the attack, and gets directly under the demon's chest. This is his only chance. Tanjiro pours all his strength into the blade and swings upward with everything he has. The sword cuts deep. The hand demon roars in pain. But it does not fall. Tanjiro jumps back. Sweat covers his face. His muscles are burning, and in front of him, the demon is still smiling. Now Tanjiro understands. This battle will not be easy. If he cannot break through this monster, he will be buried in this forest like the others. The hand demon lunges at him again. Tanjiro tightens his grip on the sword. Fear is still in his eyes, but now there is something else beside it. Determination. This demon may be bigger, stronger, and crueler than him, but Tanjiro is not going to die as prey. Moonlight breaks through the trees and falls on the ground. On one side stands a laughing nightmare. On the other side stands a wounded but unbroken Tanjiro. Right here, in the middle of this cursed mountain, Tanjiro's true battle begins. Episode 4 ends on this suffocating tension. Tanjiro is injured, the demon is terrifying, and the silent forest watches everything. Now, there is only one question. Can Tanjiro survive this mountain?
Where Tanjiro for the first time feels that he is no longer an ordinary human. The terrifying 7 days of final selection were finally over. The mountain was quiet now, but it was not a peaceful silence. It was the kind of silence that comes after countless screams have faded away. The air still carried the faint smell of blood. Broken branches were scattered across the forest floor, and pieces of torn clothing reminded everyone that many who entered this place would never return. Tanjiro walked forward with slow and painful steps. His arms were cut, his clothes were ripped, his body was exhausted, and every breath still burned in his chest. But despite all of that, one truth remained. He was alive. As he stepped into the open area outside the forest, Tanjiro lifted his eyes and looked around. At the beginning of final selection, there had been many candidates standing side by side. Now, only 4 remained. 4 survivors. 4 young fighters who had somehow escaped death. For a few seconds, Tanjiro simply stared at them. Every face looked different, but all of them carried the same heavy expression. The look of people who had seen too much fear in too little time. One stood silently with cold eyes. Another looked irritated. One kept glancing around nervously. And Tanjiro himself could only think one thing. So many people really died here. At that exact moment, the 2 mysterious little girls appeared once again. Their pale faces showed no emotion, just as coldly. From this day onward, you are recognized as members of the Demon Slayer Corps. For a brief second, Tanjiro did not know how to react. He had spent 7 days running, fighting, bleeding, and surviving. His mind had been so focused on staying alive that he had almost forgotten why he came here in the first place. Now, hearing those words, he slowly let out a long breath. Urokodaki's brutal training had not been meaningless. He had actually done it. But before the quiet moment could settle, one of the surviving boys suddenly exploded in anger. With bright yellow hair and an extremely loud voice, he pointed at the girls and shouted, "Is that it? We almost died for 7 days, and this is all you have to say? Where is my sword? Where is my reward?" Tanjiro turned his head and stared at him in confusion. They had just escaped a mountain filled with demons, and this guy was screaming louder than any monster they had faced. Tanjiro blinked slowly, almost wondering how someone this dramatic managed to survive. The 2 girls, however, showed no reaction at all. One of them calmly explained that each new demon slayer must choose a special mineral called Nichirin ore. This ore would be used to forge their personal demon slayer blade, the only kind of sword capable of properly beheading demons. Black stones were placed before the survivors. Tanjiro slowly bent down and picked one up. It felt rough and cold in his hand, but to him it was more than just a stone. It felt like the first real sign that his old life was over. Suddenly, loud cawing echoed from above. Tanjiro looked up. Several black crows circled in the sky before descending one by one. One of them flew directly onto Tanjiro's shoulder and screamed in his ear. Tanjiro jumped back in surprise. "Wait, what is this?" he asked, trying not to lose his balance. One of the girls explained that these were Kasugai crows. Each demon slayer receives one. They deliver missions, commands, and messages from the core. The crow cawed again loudly, almost as if introducing itself in the rudest way possible. Tanjiro stared at it awkwardly. After spending 7 days fighting flesh-eating demons, somehow a talking mission crow still felt bizarre. For a tiny moment, the tension in his face loosened, and he almost smiled. Meanwhile, the yellow-haired boy continued shouting at everyone around him, yelling at the girls, yelling at the crow, yelling at the entire world, as if the mountain itself had personally offended him. Tanjiro looked at him and quietly thought, if this guy fought demons half as much as he fights with his mouth, he must be unstoppable. Even in his exhausted condition, the thought almost made him laugh. With final selection complete, Tanjiro finally began the journey back to the house where everything had started. The road down the mountain looked exactly the same as before, yet every step felt different now. When he first climbed this path, he was afraid, uncertain and physically weak. Now he was wounded, tired and bruised. But there was something new inside him, a silent confidence. He had faced death directly and walked through it. After a long walk, Urokodaki's quiet home finally came into view. Tanjiro stopped in front of the door. For a second, he simply stood there. His heart was beating strangely fast. Would his master think he had done well? Had he truly become worthy? Was Nezuko still sleeping inside? The door slowly opened. Urokodaki stepped outside. For several seconds, neither of them said a word. Tanjiro looked at the masked man who had trained him so mercilessly, and suddenly all the fear and pressure he had buried during final selection came rushing back into his chest. His eyes became wet. In a low, trembling voice, he said, "I came back." Though Urokodaki's face remained calm, there was unmistakable relief in his eyes. He gave a small nod and answered quietly, "Yes, you came back." That simple sentence hit Tanjiro harder than any praise could have. It was not loud celebration. It was not dramatic approval. But it was enough. In that moment, Tanjiro truly felt that he had accomplished something. Then a soft sound came from inside the house. Tanjiro turned. There, sitting quietly on the wooden floor, was Nezuko. Her eyes were open. Tanjiro froze. For a second, he could not even breathe. He rushed inside and dropped to his knees in front of her. "Nezuko, you're awake?" His voice shook with disbelief. Nezuko looked at him silently. She could not speak, but her eyes clearly recognized her brother. Relief, happiness, and exhaustion crashed into Tanjiro all at once. Tears spilled down his cheeks as he laughed and cried at the same time. "I made it back. I really made it back." This small, quiet reunion became more precious to him than surviving the mountain itself. Several days passed. Tanjiro's wounds slowly healed, and his body regained some strength. Then, one morning, loud, angry shouting came from outside the house. A wild-looking swordsmith stormed toward the door, yelling Tanjiro's name as if he had been personally betrayed. Tanjiro stepped outside in confusion, only for the man to thrust a sheathed sword toward him while complaining that he had been forced to wait too long. Tanjiro nervously accepted it. This was his Nichiren blade. He slowly pulled the sword from its sheath. Sunlight flashed along the metal. Everyone watched carefully. For a few moments, the blade gleamed silver. Then gradually, the color changed. Dark black. The swordsmith's eyes widened immediately. Black? A black Nichiren blade? Those are extremely rare. Tanjiro stared at the sword in silence. He did not know what the color meant, but something about it sent a strange feeling through him. It felt mysterious, almost as if the blade itself was warning him that his path would not be ordinary. Just then, his Kasugai crow landed nearby and began cawing loudly once more. This time its message was clear. Tanjiro Kamado was being assigned his first official mission. In a village to the northwest, young girls had been mysteriously disappearing. The Demon Slayer Corps suspected a demon was hiding there. Tanjiro stood still for a moment. His first mission. His first true responsibility as a demon slayer. He tightened his grip around the black blade, glanced towards Nezuko's box, and slowly lifted his eyes forward. The hesitation of a trainee was gone now. In its place stood someone new, a young warrior ready to step into the real world of demon hunting. Tanjiro's first true test begins on this horrifying night. With his new black Nichiren sword tied at his waist, wearing the Demon Slayer Corps uniform, and carrying Nezuko inside the wooden box on his back, Tanjiro heads toward a town in the northwest where several young girls have been mysteriously disappearing. Throughout the journey, Urokodaki's warning keeps echoing in his mind. Every demon has a different ability, so never attack before understanding how it hunts. Tanjiro walks in silence, but deep inside him burns only one promise. He will never let another family suffer the same tragedy his family did. The moment he enters the town, he can feel fear hanging over the streets like a curse. People whisper in low voices. No one dares to walk alone at night, and every mother clutches her daughter tightly, as if she might vanish at any second. That is when Tanjiro notices a completely broken young man. His clothes are covered in dust, his face is swollen, and his eyes are filled with restless madness. The townspeople quietly explain. His name is Kazumi, and his fiancée Satoko disappeared right in front of him the previous night. Tanjiro immediately approaches him. In a trembling voice, Kazumi explains that Satoko had been walking beside him, the two of them talking about their future together, when suddenly it felt as if a black shadow swallowed her whole. He tried to grab her hand, but all his fingers touched was empty air. When he told Satoko's parents what happened, nobody believed him. Instead, they blamed him. Tears begin to stream down Kazumi's face as he clenches his teeth and says, "I am not lying. Something took her, and I will bring her back, no matter what." Tanjiro listens carefully and asks Kazumi to take him to the exact place where she vanished. The two of them walk into the silent alley where Satoko disappeared. Tanjiro kneels down and begins smelling the ground and the air around him. For a few seconds, he finds nothing clear, but then a faint, rotten, filthy, suffocating demonic scent brushes against his nose. His eyes sharpen as he whispers, "It was here, and it is still searching for prey." Night fully takes over the town. Silence spreads through every narrow street. Kazumi nervously asks if they should wait until morning, but Tanjiro immediately shakes his head. Even in the darkness, his eyes remain alert. He says, "No. If we wait, another girl will disappear tonight." Hearing that sends a chill through Kazumi's entire body. At that same moment, on the other side of town, a young girl sits alone inside her room. Her mother closes the door from outside and tells her to get some rest. The girl trembles in fear. Then, across the wooden floor, a black swamp-like shadow slowly begins to spread. She does not even understand what she is looking at, before two horrifying hands burst out of that darkness. One hand covers her mouth, the other grabs her body. Her eyes widen in terror, but no scream escapes. Her entire body begins sinking into that black swamp. At that exact second, Tanjiro suddenly stops. The demon's scent had become incredibly strong. He shouts at the top of his lungs, "Found you!" And he bolts forward with explosive speed. Kazumi tries to follow, but Tanjiro leaps across rooftops so fast that he disappears in the blink of an eye. Within seconds, Tanjiro lands outside the house. The smell is now so strong that even his breathing becomes heavy. Without wasting a moment, he draws his Nichiren sword and drives it straight into the ground with all his strength. Black sticky swamp bursts upward. Tanjiro grabs the sinking girl's hand and yanks her back with all his force. She falls into his arms, unconscious. but alive. But in that same instant, a horrifying, rasping laugh echoes from below. The black swamp begins to boil. One twisted face rises out of it, then another from the opposite side, then a third. 3 separate bodies, but the exact same rotten scent. Tanjiro narrows his eyes. He understands immediately. This is a swamp demon, a demon using blood demon art to split into multiple bodies while hiding and moving through shadowy swamps beneath the ground. The 3 demons let out disgusting laughter. One sticks out his long tongue and says, "Ah, the flesh of 16-year-old girls is always the softest." Another grins and adds, "And their fear, it tastes so sweet." The third one stares at Kazumi and smirks. "Still looking for your dear Satoko?" Kazumi's face turns pale. In a shaking voice, he screams, "Where is she? Give her back!" The swamp demon lifts several hairpins between its filthy fingers. Among them, Satoko's hairpin. Kazumi's breath stops. Tears burst from his eyes as he collapses to his knees and screams, "No! Satoko, you ate her! You monster!" The demon only laughs. She was delicious. The moment Tanjiro hears those words, fire ignites in his eyes. The image of his murdered family flashes across his mind. Nezuko's wounded face appears before him. His grip around the sword tightens so hard his fingers turn white. Through clenched teeth, he says, "I will end you right here." All 3 demons lunge at him at once. The first slashes down from above. Tanjiro ducks under it and swings his blade across its chest. The second bursts from the swamp behind him, trying to seize his legs. Tanjiro jumps into the air. The third strikes directly at his face. Spinning mid-air, Tanjiro unleashes water-breathing, 8th form. His sword flashes like a spiraling wave of water and tears across one demon's shoulder. Black blood sprays into the air, but the demon only stumbles back and begins laughing again. Tanjiro quickly realizes these are not ordinary demons that fight head-on. They keep sinking into the swamp, appearing from different angles, attacking from blind spots, forcing him into confusion. With every exchange, his breathing becomes heavier, but he refuses to lose his rhythm. Kazumi stands behind him shaking, but suddenly his grief becomes stronger than his fear. He screams, "Tanjiro, kill that monster for my Satoko." At that very moment, one demon slips behind them and moves toward the unconscious girl. Tanjiro tries to rush over, but the other 2 demons block his path. For one split second, the situation begins slipping out of his control. And then, movement comes from inside the wooden box on Tanjiro's back. The lid bursts open. Nezuko shoots out like lightning. Her eyes glow red with fury. She drives a brutal kick straight into the demon's face that was reaching for the girl. The demon is sent flying across the alley and smashes into the wall. Tanjiro is startled for a moment, but a faint look of relief appears on his face. Nezuko is awake. For the first time, the 3 swamp demons look shaken. One growls. Another demon. The second slowly steps back. Tanjiro stands shoulder to shoulder with Nezuko. His breathing is rough. Sweat runs down his forehead, but his eyes are now harder than ever. He raises his sword forward. The black swamp spreads before them. 3 demons surround them from every side. Behind them, Kazumi mutters Satoko's name with a shattered heart. And Tanjiro finally understands. His first mission is no longer just a mission. This is about to become the first true battle fought by brother and sister together. Episode 6 ends right there. On that breathtaking moment when Tanjiro and Nezuko stand side by side for the first time, surrounded by 3 swamp demons, as the Dark Knight's battle enters its most dangerous stage. The scene begins with Nezuko fighting the swamp demon alone. Black swamp shadows had spread across the entire alley, while Kazumi stood nearby, protecting the unconscious girl in fear. Tanjiro looks at Nezuko and says, "Nezuko, protect them." Nezuko growls and nods her head. The swamp demon starts laughing. You humans are truly pathetic. Entering our swamp means death. Suddenly, the black swamp spreads beneath Tanjiro's feet. Kazumi panics and shouts, "Tanjiro!" But Tanjiro doesn't step back. He tightens his grip on his Nichiren sword and jumps directly into the swamp. The inside of the swamp was completely dark. The air smelled rotten and breathing was difficult. The two swamp demons laughed from the shadows. This idiot entered our territory himself. His movements will become slower here. And once his oxygen runs out, he'll die. Tanjiro steadies his breathing and thinks to himself, the air is thin in here, but I still have enough oxygen. And in a place like this, my water breathing techniques become even stronger. Suddenly, both demons attack him at once. One slashes from above. The other tries to grab him from behind. But this time, Tanjiro was ready. He swings his sword. Water breathing. Sixth form. Whirlpool. In the next moment, his blade spins like a raging vortex of water through the swamp. Both demons scream in pain as their bodies are sliced apart. Black blood spreads through the darkness. Above the surface, Nezuko is still fighting the third demon alone. The demon growls, "This girl is strange. She's not a normal demon." Nezuko rushes forward and lands a powerful kick that sends the demon sliding backward. But suddenly the demon attacks cleverly and slashes Nezuko across the forehead with its claws. Blood runs down her face. The demon laughs. "Now die!" Just as it lunges toward Nezuko again, Tanjiro bursts out of the swamp. Like lightning. One slash. And both of the demon's arms fall to the ground. The demon screams in agony. Tanjiro places his sword against its neck. Anger burns in his eyes. "Tell me, what do you know about Muzan Kibutsuji?" The moment the demon hears Muzan's name, fear takes over its face. Muzan's terrifying voice echoes inside its mind. "If you ever reveal information about me, I will destroy you." The demon starts screaming like a madman. "No, don't say his name." Suddenly it attacks Tanjiro in panic, but Tanjiro instantly cuts off its head. Within seconds, the demon's body crumbles into ashes. The battle was over. Kazumi slowly walks toward Tanjiro with tears in his eyes. Tanjiro hands him Satoko's hairpins. Kazumi holds them with trembling hands before suddenly shouting in anger, "What could you possibly know about my pain? The woman I loved is gone. You're just a stranger." Tanjiro remains silent for a moment before quietly saying, "The things we lose never come back, but we still have to keep living." Kazumi grabs Tanjiro's hand angrily, but then he notices the scars covering Tanjiro's hands. Rough hands filled with pain and hard training. For the first time, Kazumi realizes that Tanjiro has suffered too. Slowly, his anger fades away. Sometime later, Tanjiro's crow suddenly begins shouting, "Tokyo! Head to Asakusa." After several days of traveling, Tanjiro and Nezuko finally arrive in Tokyo. Bright lights filled the streets. Crowds of people walked everywhere. Cars moved through the city. Even at night, the entire place was glowing with life. Tanjiro stares around in shock. Are cities always this huge? There's light everywhere, even at night. The noise and crowd overwhelm him. He tightly holds Nezuko's box while walking through the streets. After some time, the two stop at a small restaurant. Tanjiro is about to eat his noodles when suddenly he smells something. His body freezes instantly. His eyes slowly widen. That smell. It's exactly the same as the night my family was killed. Tanjiro immediately drops the bowl and runs into the crowd. His heartbeat becomes faster. That smell, the smell of death. Suddenly he grabs a man's shoulder. The man slowly turns around. A white hat, black suit, and a small child in his arms. Tanjiro's eyes shake with rage, because standing in front of him was Muzan Kibutsuji. Muzan calmly says, "What's wrong, son? Why do you look so frightened?" Tanjiro is completely stunned. He cannot believe that the most terrifying demon is living among humans like an ordinary man, pretending to be a husband and father. But before Tanjiro can react, Muzan quietly scratches a passing man's neck with his fingernail. Just a tiny. But in the next moment, the man's body starts shaking violently. His veins bulge. His eyes turn blood red. His wife looks at him in fear. "What's happening to you?" And suddenly, the man bites directly into his wife's shoulder. She screams in pain. Panic erupts across the street. People start running and shouting, "Run away! What is happening?" The entire area fills with screams. People start running in fear. Some were trying to protect their children, while others pushed through the crowd just to save themselves. And taking advantage of all that chaos, Muzan disappears into the crowd, as if he was never there in the first place. Tanjiro immediately tries to hold down the demonized man. He had already realized that if he wasn't stopped right now, even more people would die. A woman falls to the ground, badly injured. Tanjiro shouts loudly, "Please, hold pressure on her wound!" But inside his mind, only one name was echoing, Muzan. Filled with rage, Tanjiro turns toward the crowd and roars, "Muzan Kibutsuji! No matter where you hide, I will find you, and I will cut off your head myself." Even the people around him become terrified hearing his voice. Just then, the police arrive at the scene. All they could see was a young boy holding a sword while fighting a violent man. The police immediately surround Tanjiro. "Hey you, step away from that man. Put your sword down." The situation starts becoming even more dangerous. Tanjiro couldn't figure out how to explain the real danger to everyone around him. But suddenly, he smells a strange fragrance. The scent was incredibly calm, like a breeze coming from a garden full of flowers. In the middle of all that fear and bloodshed, that fragrance strangely felt comforting. Tanjiro slowly turns around and sees a mysterious woman standing there. Beside her was a pale boy with white hair. In a calm voice, the woman says, "Don't be afraid. We are not your enemies." Tanjiro immediately realizes that scent wasn't human. Surprised, he asks, "You are a demon?" The woman smiles gently. "Yes, I am a demon, but I do not kill humans. I'm also a healer, and I want to destroy Muzan too." That woman's name was Dr. Tamayo. At that moment, the police move towards them again. But suddenly everything starts changing. The officers begin seeing strange illusions. Some see walls shaking, others see the ground cracking apart. This was Tamayo's blood demon art. She could confuse people's minds using her fragrance. Taking advantage of the confusion, Tamayo, Yoshiro, Tanjiro, and Nezuko escape from the area. But standing far away on a rooftop were two dark figures. Their eyes were locked onto Tanjiro. Meanwhile, Muzan had already left behind his fake family and entered a dark alley. The smile on his face had completely disappeared. Suddenly, a group of thugs blocks his path. "Hey, rich guy, hand over everything you've got." Muzan simply stares at them silently. There wasn't even a trace of humanity in his eyes. One thug angrily grabs Muzan by the collar. But in the very next second, Muzan snaps his arm apart. His scream echoes through the entire alley. Another man charges toward him, but Muzan breaks his neck effortlessly, as if he was nothing more than a toy. Nearby, a woman was holding a little daughter while crying in fear. Her entire body was trembling. "Please, let us go." But there was no emotion on Muzan's face. Slowly, he walks toward her and pushes his fingernail directly into her forehead. In the very next moment, her veins begin swelling. Her body shakes violently, and then her entire body explodes right there. Her daughter starts crying uncontrollably, but Muzan walks away without even looking back. For the very first time, we truly understand just how terrifying Muzan's blood really is. An ordinary human simply cannot survive it. After that, two demons appear from the darkness before him. One carried colorful tamari balls in her hands, while the other had strange arrows spinning inside his eyes. In a cold voice, Muzan commands them, "Go, find that boy, the one wearing the Hanafuda earrings, and bring me his head." Both demons smile wickedly. Elsewhere, Tanjiro returns to the same noodle shop. The shopkeeper was still frightened. Bowing respectfully, Tanjiro apologizes. "I'm sorry, your shop got dragged into all this trouble." The owner smiles softly. "It's all right, son." After that, Tanjiro finishes his meal. Tamayo continues observing Nezuko carefully, because Nezuko is completely different from other demons. Then Yashiro leads them into a quiet alley. Tanjiro becomes confused, because there was no house there at all. But then, Yashiro waves his hand through the air, and suddenly, a magical hidden house appears before them. Tanjiro's eyes widen in shock. This was their secret home. As soon as they enter the house, Tamayo begins talking to Tanjiro. She explains, "For the past 200 years, I have been researching Muzan, and during all those years, I was only able to turn one human into a demon." She looks toward Yashiro. That person is Yashiro. Tanjiro is completely shocked. Then he asks, "But how do you survive without killing humans?" Tamayo calmly replies, "I buy small amounts of human blood, only enough to stay alive." Then her eyes move towards Nezuko, and she becomes stunned. This girl is controlling herself without eating humans. Tamayo realizes Nezuko was different from every other demon. But suddenly, Yashiro shouts loudly, "Get down!" And in the very next second, a powerful tamari ball smashes through the wall and crashes inside the house. The entire house starts shaking violently. Cracks spread across the walls. Tanjiro instantly pulls out his sword. Outside, the two deadly demons sent by Muzan were standing there. And now, the real battle was about to begin. A dangerous tamari ball crashes straight through the wall of the house. The entire building shakes violently as pieces of wood fly everywhere. Everyone instantly realizes the enemies have arrived. Outside the house stood two terrifying demons. One was a demon girl holding colorful tamari balls in her hands, and the other was a strange demon sitting high up on a tree. Arrows were marked across his eyes and hands. The moment the fight begins, the tamari demon throws another powerful ball toward them. This time, it hits Yashiro directly in the head. Boom! Yashiro's head is completely blown off and flies away from his body. Tanjiro freezes in shock. Tamayo immediately kneels beside Yashiro, sadness clearly visible on her face. At that moment, Tanjiro finally understands just how dangerous these demons truly are. But the enemies do not stop attacking. The tamari demon keeps throwing balls one after another, each attack more destructive than the last. Tanjiro quickly pulls out his sword and tries to stop one of the incoming balls. Water breathing. He barely manages to slash the ball. But in the very next second, the ball gets stuck inside his sword. Tanjiro stares at it in confusion. Then suddenly, the arrow demon activates his power from the tree, and the ball changes direction in mid-air and starts flying back toward Tanjiro. Now Tanjiro finally understands. the balls are actually being controlled by the arrow demon. At the same time, something unbelievable happens. Yushiro's head slowly starts regenerating. Within seconds, his entire head grows back completely. Tanjiro can only stare in shock. Yushiro quickly rushes toward Tanjiro and places a special paper talisman over his eyes. The moment it activates, Tanjiro begins seeing strange arrows floating through the air. Now he can finally understand the direction of the attacks. Tanjiro immediately forms a plan. He turns towards Nezuko and shouts, "Nezuko, handle the demon on the tree. I'll take care of the Tamari demon." Nezuko instantly rushes toward the tree. The arrow demon keeps firing arrows to control every attack around them. The arrows on his eyes and hands begin glowing brightly. Nezuko leaps straight toward him and lands a powerful kick. Boom! The arrow demon crashes down from the tree. As he falls, several arrows suddenly disappear. Now Tanjiro can read the attacks more clearly than before. Meanwhile, the Tamari demon continues attacking non-stop. Every single ball destroys walls and floors as they fly across the house. Tanjiro keeps dodging again and again, but his body is slowly reaching its limit. Then Yushiro suddenly shouts, "Tanjiro, kill the arrow demon. Me and Nezuko will handle the ball demon." Tanjiro immediately changes direction and charges toward the arrow demon. But suddenly, the arrow demon activates his ability again. In an instant, Tanjiro's body is thrown violently into the air. Left, right, upward, downward. His entire body loses control. Tanjiro crashes directly into a wall. Boom! Blood spills from his mouth as he struggles to stand again. But now, he can finally see the arrows clearly. He completely understands how the attacks work. Tanjiro steadies himself in midair and rushes toward the arrow demon once again. He swings his sword toward the demon's legs, but the moment the blade cuts through, the demon changes the attack direction instantly. Tanjiro's body gets dragged across the room and smashed into another wall. Meanwhile, Nezuko and Yushiro continue fighting the Tamari demon. The demon jumps high into the air and throws another deadly ball downward. Nezuko prepares to kick it away. But suddenly Tamayo screams, "Nezuko, don't stop it with your leg." But it is already too late. The moment Nezuko kicks the ball, her leg gets badly torn apart. Blood splashes across the floor. Even after getting injured, Nezuko refuses to back down. The only thing visible in her eyes now is rage. Meanwhile, Tanjiro takes one final deep breath. Countless arrows continue spinning inside his mind. Then suddenly, he gets an idea. Tanjiro activates his technique. Water breathing, flowing dance. Instead of resisting the arrows, Tanjiro allows his body to flow together with their movement. Now he is no longer fighting against the attacks. He is using the arrows themselves to move faster. The arrow demon's expression changes in shock. Tanjiro spins through the air and reaches him in an instant. Swish! With one powerful slash, the arrow demon's neck is cut clean off. His head falls onto the ground. But even in his final moments, his eyes are filled with hatred. He stares directly at Tanjiro and says, "I will never forgive you." And then, he activates his final attack. Suddenly, countless arrows appear all over Tanjiro's body. His body starts getting thrown everywhere. Up, down, forward, backward. The entire area shakes from the sound of his body crashing again and again. But even after suffering so much pain, Tanjiro refuses to stop his breathing technique. He continues using water breathing to keep control over his body. Meanwhile, the arrow demon slowly starts turning into dust. His body completely disappears. Now the demon was finally dead. But the battle on the other side was still far from over. Tanjiro was so exhausted that he could not even lift his sword anymore. His hands were trembling. Even then, he grabs his katana with his mouth and slowly starts crawling toward the ball demon. On the other side, the ball demon keeps attacking Yashiro continuously. She launches multiple Tamari balls into the air and sends them flying toward him. Everywhere around them, dangerous balls were flying at insane speed. Then suddenly, one ball heads directly towards Yashiro's face. But at that exact moment, Nezuko jumps in front of him, and with a powerful kick, she sends the ball flying away. The ball demon looks shocked, but the next second, she starts attacking Nezuko non-stop. One dangerous ball after another comes rushing toward her, and every single time, Nezuko kicks them away. The entire battlefield keeps shaking from constant explosions. Even Tamayo looks shocked while watching this fight. She realizes that this battle cannot continue much longer. Then slowly, Tamayo steps forward. Her expression becomes completely serious. Tamayo activates her blood demon art. Suddenly, a strange scent spreads through the entire area. The ball demon becomes confused for a few seconds. Tamayo calmly starts talking to her. She slowly traps the demon in conversation. And then, Tamayo makes her say Kibutsuji's name out loud. The moment the ball demon speaks about him, huge, terrifying hands suddenly burst out from her mouth and stomach. Her entire body becomes covered in horrifying hands. Those hands begin tearing her body apart. The ball demon screams in pain. She falls onto the ground, writhing helplessly. Tamayo silently watches everything. Then she quickly collects the demon's blood, because that blood could help turn Nezuko back into a human someday. Nearby, one of the demon's Tamari balls slowly rolls across the ground. A strange, lonely sound comes from it. Tanjiro quietly walks toward it and gently places the Tamari beside the demon's body. Sadness can clearly be seen on his face. He thinks to himself, so this is how Kibutsuji rewards the loyalty of his... For the first time, Tanjiro feels pity even for demons. After the battle, Yashiro calls Tanjiro into a secret underground room beneath the house. As soon as Tanjiro enters, Nezuko immediately runs toward him and hugs him tightly. Tanjiro smiles softly and pats her head. Then Nezuko walks toward Tamayo and hugs her as well. Tamayo and Yashiro both look surprised. Tamayo gently says, "If you want, you can leave Nezuko. We will take care of her." But the moment Nezuko hears that, she tightly grabs Tanjiro's hand. It was clear that she did not want to stay away from him. Tanjiro smiles slightly. Now the two of them were finally ready to continue their journey once again. But suddenly, Tanjiro's crow flies down from above. It starts shouting loudly, "Southeast! Southeast!" Their next mission had already begun. And then, a yellow-haired boy appears while desperately begging a girl to marry him. He keeps crying loudly and says, "Please, marry me!" The girl desperately tries to get away from him. Tanjiro stands there, watching the entire scene. "Please marry me. I don't want to die alone." The girl was desperately trying to escape, but this guy just wouldn't let go. That's when Tanjiro steps in and pulls the boy away from her. Tanjiro calmly says, "If she's saying no, then stop bothering her." But instead of calming down, the boy suddenly grabs Tanjiro and starts crying even harder. And then, slap! The girl smacks him right across the face before walking away. The crying boy completely collapses to the ground while screaming dramatically. Tanjiro quickly realizes this was actually the same cowardly boy from the final selection exam. The boy introduces himself as Zenitsu, and honestly, this guy was more afraid of breathing than fighting demons. Zenitsu explains that he's terrified of every single mission because he's convinced he's going to die soon. Even his sparrow looked tired of his nonsense. But then, something even funnier happens. Tanjiro's crow suddenly starts speaking like a human. Zenitsu freezes in shock and screams, "Why can your crow talk like a person?" After that, both of them continue towards their next mission. Well, Tanjiro walks normally. Meanwhile, Zenitsu spends the entire trip crying. Sometimes he says, "We're all going to die." And other times, "I still need to get married first." As they continue moving forward, Tanjiro suddenly smells something strange. A demon scent. And it was getting stronger. A few moments later, they arrive in front of a creepy-looking house. Outside the house stood two terrified children. The kids explained that their older brother suddenly disappeared, and while chasing him, they ended up near this strange house. Then suddenly, boom! A loud sound echoes from inside, and the entire house begins shaking. Walls start rotating, rooms change directions, and the whole place turns into a giant nightmare maze. Zenitsu was already seconds away from crying himself unconscious. Tanjiro instantly realizes this must be some kind of blood demon art. Then suddenly, a badly injured man falls from above and crashes onto the ground. He was covered in blood. Before dying, he warns them, "Run away, that monster is dangerous." And then he dies right in front of them. Tanjiro feels terrible because he couldn't save him. But then, the drums start playing again. Every drum beat changes the direction of the house itself. Now Tanjiro fully understands the demon's ability. This demon controls the entire house using drum sounds. Tanjiro decides to enter the house immediately, but Zenitsu instantly refuses. "I don't want to die." However, the moment Tanjiro gives him an angry stare, Zenitsu gets even more scared of Tanjiro than the demon itself, so he follows him inside anyway. Before entering, Tanjiro leaves Nezuko's box near the children and tells them, "If anything happens, open this box." Inside the house, everything feels cursed. Dark hallways, rotating rooms, and drums echoing from every direction. Then suddenly the rooms begin spinning again. 1 second the wall was beside them. The next second it became the floor. Zenitsu keeps screaming non-stop. At some point, Zenitsu and one of the children get separated from Tanjiro. Now they were trapped deep inside the maze-like house. Zenitsu desperately tries to find the exit, but every single door leads to another strange room. Then suddenly, a terrifying figure appears in front of him. The person was wearing a giant boar mask and holding Nichirin swords. Zenitsu almost dies from fear instantly. But before he can even react, the mysterious fighter rushes away at full speed. Meanwhile, Tanjiro finally encounters the demon responsible for everything. The demon had drums attached all over his body. Tanjiro immediately realizes this monster was the true master of the house. And then, boom! Another loud crash shakes the room. Suddenly, that boar mask fighter smashes through the wall and enters dramatically. Even Tanjiro looks shocked by this crazy entrance. The masked fighter points at the demon and yells, "This demon is mine!" The episode begins with complete chaos. The drum demon keeps beating his drums, and every beat changes the position of the room. Walls become floors, floors become ceilings, and the entire mansion turns into a giant nightmare maze. Tanjiro keeps smashing into walls while the ball mask fighter somehow keeps his balance perfectly. Instead of being scared, he actually starts enjoying the madness. He laughs loudly and shouts, "Now this is real power!" But suddenly Teruko starts crying in fear, and seeing her terrified face makes Tanjiro angry. Without hesitation, he grabs the ball mask fighter and throws him away from her. Now the mysterious fighter gets angry too and points his sword directly at Tanjiro. Tanjiro tries explaining that their real enemy is the drum demon, but this guy clearly has zero interest in listening. Meanwhile, the drum demon gets irritated, watching them argue inside his mansion. He angrily beats one of his drums. Suddenly, violent winds slash through the room and giant claw marks tear across the floor. Tanjiro barely dodges the attack in time. Now he slowly begins understanding the demon's powers. Each drum creates a completely different attack. But then, boom! Another drum echoes through the mansion and the ball mask fighter gets launched into another room. A second later, the rooms rotate again. At this point, Tanjiro realizes there are multiple demons hiding inside the mansion. He tells Teruko to stay behind him no matter what. As they continue moving through the mansion, Tanjiro notices a blood-covered man lying on the floor. But he immediately realizes this isn't Teruko's brother. So he stops her from looking at the body to avoid scaring her even more. A little later, Tanjiro smells something strange. A very unusual type of blood. It smelled different from anything he'd ever sensed before. He tells Teruko to stay back while he checks the next room alone. But the moment he opens the door, he sees a boy wearing an orange kimono, and in his hand was another drum. Meanwhile, somewhere else inside the mansion, Zenitsu and Shoichi are running for their lives. Zenitsu is screaming every few seconds. Shoichi finally asks why he's scared all the time. And hearing that almost makes Zenitsu cry again. He says, "If I stop being scared, I'll probably die immediately." Suddenly, a horrifying demon with a long, lizard-like tongue appears behind them. Its tongue was so disgusting that just looking at it felt cursed. Zenitsu and Shoichi immediately start running again. But while escaping, Zenitsu falls down and injures his leg. Shoichi refuses to leave him behind. And surprisingly, that makes Zenitsu emotional. He starts thinking, "This kid is scared too, but he still won't abandon me." Meanwhile, the creepy demon slowly approaches them. While stretching out its massive tongue, Shoichi starts trembling in fear. But then he notices something strange. Zenitsu suddenly becomes completely silent because he had passed out from fear. But in the very next moment, his entire breathing changes. The fear disappears from his face and the atmosphere instantly becomes serious. Zenitsu slowly grabs his sword and uses thunder-breathing first form thunderclap and flash. Flash! The attack happens so fast that Shoichi can't even see it, and in the next second, the demon's head falls off completely. Shoichi is left speechless. He has absolutely no idea what just happened, but Zenitsu wakes up confused, like nothing even happened. Meanwhile, the ball mask fighter continues running around the mansion searching for demons. Suddenly, a fat demon appears in front of him. Big mistake, because the next moment, beast breathing. Us. The masked fighter attacks so fast that the demon doesn't even get time to react. Within seconds, the demon is completely destroyed. At the same time, the drum demon thinks about a rare blood type called Murechi blood. He believes that if he drinks this special blood, he might regain his place among the 12 Kazuki once again. We even see his flashback, where Muzan humiliates him and removes him from the 12 Kazuki. That humiliation is the reason why the drum demon became obsessed with growing stronger. Back on Tanjiro's side, he finally finds Teruko's brother alive. Tanjiro quickly treats his injuries and praises both children for surviving this long. Then Shoichi explains that he accidentally hit one of the drums earlier, which caused the rooms to rotate. Now Tanjiro finally understands how the mansion's powers work. But suddenly, he senses the drum demon approaching again. Tanjiro tells the children to stay back, while he steps forward to fight alone. The drum demon starts beating his drums rapidly. Left, right, forward, backward. The entire room spins like crazy, but now Tanjiro slowly starts reading every movement pattern. Even though his old injuries still haven't healed, he refuses to give up. Then he remembers Urokodaki's words, "Become like water. Water can adapt to any shape." Those words give Tanjiro confidence once again. He grips his sword tightly and prepares to attack the drum demon. He refused to give up. He kept telling himself that no matter what happened, he had to defeat this monster. Kyogai became furious after hearing Tanjiro's determination. Meanwhile, somewhere else inside the mansion, Zenitsu and Shoichi were desperately trying to find Tanjiro. Zenitsu suddenly realized that they were just running in circles the whole time. Shoichi nervously admitted that he had been thinking the same thing too. At that exact moment, another drum sound echoed through the mansion, and suddenly the entire room rotated again. Both Zenitsu and Shoichi lost their balance and crashed toward a door that unexpectedly opened. Before they could react, they were thrown completely outside the mansion. Back inside, Tanjiro was still struggling against Kyogai's attacks. The constant room rotations made it almost impossible for him to even stand properly. Tanjiro forced himself to stay focused and realized that he didn't have time to panic. Suddenly, Kyogai launched another claw attack. Tanjiro barely dodged it in time. Instead of attacking immediately, Tanjiro asked the demon for his name. The monster introduced himself as Kyogai. Tanjiro then told him, "No matter what happens, I won't hand over that boy to you." Hearing this made Kyogai even angrier. He revealed that he wanted to consume the boy with Morechi blood so he could regain his rank among the 12 Kazuki. After that, Kyogai intensified his attacks even more. At the same time, Kyogai remembered his tragic past. Before becoming a demon, he used to be a writer who loved creating stories and music. But one day, another man insulted his work and mocked his passion, saying his writing was worthless. The man even stepped on Kyogai's precious papers before leaving. However, by that point, Kyogai had already become a demon. In rage, he used his drums to brutally kill the man. Back in the present, remembering this moment pushed Kyogai into complete madness. He began beating the drums faster and faster until Tanjiro started spinning wildly across the room. Then papers from Kyogai's writings began flying everywhere. For just a brief second, Kyogai stopped moving. The papers slowly fell to the ground. But despite the chaos, Tanjiro carefully avoided stepping on any of them. Kyogai was shocked. Even during battle, Tanjiro respected his writings. At that moment, Tanjiro finally started adapting to the rhythm of the drums. He realized he could sense the airflow created by each drum beat and predict the next attack. Tanjiro immediately used water breathing, 9th form, splashing water flow, turbulent. Using the spinning room itself to increase his speed, Tanjiro rushed directly toward Kyogai. Kyogai still couldn't understand how Tanjiro was getting closer. Then suddenly, Tanjiro found the opening thread. In one swift motion, he sliced through Kyogai's neck. As the demon's head fell, Tanjiro calmly told him, "Your blood demon art was incredible." Kyogai was stunned by those words. For the first time in years, someone had acknowledged his art. As his body slowly began turning to dust, Kyogai asked if Tanjiro truly meant it. Tanjiro honestly replied that he did. But he also said that no matter how impressive his abilities were, he could never forgive him for killing innocent people. As Kyogai faded away, Tanjiro remembered Tamayo's mission. He quickly collected a sample of Kyogai's blood using a syringe. A mysterious cat sent by Tamayo suddenly appeared and carried the blood sample away. This was actually one of Yashiro's hidden abilities. Before leaving, Tanjiro looked toward Kyogai and quietly prayed for his soul. Soon after, Tanjiro began searching for Teruko and her brother. While entering another room, random objects suddenly started flying toward him. A book smacked directly into his head. When he looked up, he realized it was actually Teruko and her brother who had mistaken him for a monster. Tanjiro reassured them that the demon had already been defeated. Then the three of them finally started heading outside. But before they could leave completely, Tanjiro suddenly smelled blood again. He immediately rushed toward the scent. Outside the mansion, he discovered Zenitsu badly injured while tightly protecting Nezuko's box. Standing in front of him was the mysterious boar-masked demon slayer. Zenitsu refused to let the stranger touch the box because Tanjiro had told him that it was more important than life itself. A few moments earlier, after being thrown outside, Zenitsu had regained consciousness. Even while asleep or unconscious, Zenitsu could still hear everything around him because of his extraordinary hearing ability. Shoichi thanked Zenitsu for protecting him while they fell outside the mansion. Zenitsu immediately panicked again and asked if he was going to die. That's when they heard the boar-masked swordsman approaching. The stranger sensed that a demon was hiding inside the box. Zenitsu suddenly remembered him. This was actually the 5th Demon Slayer who had survived the final selection exam. The mysterious swordsman immediately tried attacking the box, but Zenitsu stepped in front of it. The boar-masked fighter demanded to know who Zenitsu was. Zenitsu nervously introduced himself and explained that he was also a demon slayer. The stranger angrily shouted that there was clearly a demon inside the box and it needed to be killed immediately. But Zenitsu refused. He explained that although he could hear the terrifying sound of a demon coming from inside the box, Tanjiro's voice was one of the purest and kindest voices he had ever heard. Because of his enhanced hearing, Zenitsu could sense a person's true nature. And he believed that if Tanjiro was protecting this demon, there had to be a good reason. The boar-masked demon slayer didn't care at all. He started beating Zenitsu repeatedly while trying to force him away from the box. Zenitsu kept protecting it despite being completely terrified. Then finally, Tanjiro arrived. Just as the boar-masked swordsman was about to strike Zenitsu with his blade, Tanjiro shouted at him to stop. Tanjiro lands a powerful punch directly into Inosuke's stomach, sending him flying backward. Tanjiro angrily tells him that demon slayers are not allowed to attack each other with their swords. But Inosuke doesn't care at all. Instead, he gets even more excited and challenges Tanjiro to fight without swords. Zenitsu watches all of this in complete shock. He can't believe Tanjiro is still able to fight properly even after suffering so many injuries. Meanwhile, Tanjiro starts fighting Inosuke, but quickly realizes that battling him feels less like fighting a human and more like fighting a wild animal. To stop the fight, Tanjiro suddenly smashes his forehead directly into Inosuke's head. The impact is so strong that Inosuke's boar mask flies off. Zenitsu gets completely shocked after seeing Inosuke's face and instantly blurts out, "Wait, are you actually a girl?" Because Inosuke's face looks surprisingly beautiful. Inosuke immediately gets angry and tells him to stop talking nonsense. He then introduces himself as Inosuke Hashibira Tanjiro, tries asking him why he acts so strangely. But Inosuke casually reveals that he doesn't even know how to read or write. A few moments later, Inosuke suddenly collapses unconscious because Tanjiro's headbutt was just too powerful. Everyone nearby starts praising Tanjiro's insane strength, while Zenitsu wonders if Tanjiro's head is secretly made out of stone. After that, the group begins burying the people who died inside the mansion. Tanjiro asks Inosuke to help them, but Inosuke keeps demanding another fight instead. Tanjiro calmly tells him that maybe he's carrying some kind of pain deep inside, but eventually things will get better. Inosuke instantly yells back, telling Tanjiro not to underestimate him. Soon after, a Kasugai crow arrives and orders the group to head toward their next destination. Before leaving, Tanjiro gives wisteria flowers to the children, so demons will stay away from them. As night falls, the group reaches a large mansion owned by the Wisteria family. These people are known for helping demon slayers whenever they can. An old woman warmly welcomes them inside and prepares rooms and food for them. Everyone is exhausted, so they immediately start eating. Zenitsu becomes suspicious because he can't believe ordinary people prepared everything this quickly. Later, a doctor examines Tanjiro and the others and reveals that several of their bones are still badly damaged. That night, the three boys finally sit together and talk. Inosuke explains that he joined the Demon Slayer Corps after defeating a Demon Slayer and stealing his sword. Meanwhile, Zenitsu suddenly asks Tanjiro why he's traveling with a demon. Tanjiro realizes that Zenitsu already knew about Nezuko all along. He thanks Zenitsu for protecting the box. Suddenly, Nezuko's box starts shaking. Zenitsu immediately panics and screams that the demon is coming out, but Tanjiro stays completely calm. Slowly, the box opens, and Nezuko steps outside. The moment Zenitsu sees her, he freezes in shock. Then suddenly his entire personality changes. Zenitsu starts screaming at Tanjiro, saying it's unfair for him to travel around with such a cute girl. He even grabs his sword and starts chasing Tanjiro around, while Tanjiro desperately tries to calm him down. chasing Tanjiro with his sword because he couldn't believe Tanjiro was traveling with such a cute girl and kept it a secret from him. Tanjiro keeps trying to explain that Nezuko is actually his younger sister, but Zenitsu refuses to listen. A little later, Nezuko comes out of the box, and the moment Zenitsu sees her, he instantly starts following her everywhere. He keeps trying to impress her while Nezuko gets more and more uncomfortable. Tanjiro is forced to stand between them just to calm things down. But at this point, Zenitsu has also started liking Tanjiro, only because he's Nezuko's brother. Meanwhile, Inosuke is sitting outside the room, listening to everything. Suddenly, the old woman from the wisteria house arrives with clean clothes for him. She kindly tells him that his clothes are dirty and offers to wash them for him while giving him fresh clothes to wear. For the first time in a long while, Inosuke feels a strange warmth inside. But of course, instead of expressing his feelings normally, he walks into the room and headbutts Tanjiro as hard as possible. Tanjiro screams in pain, while Zenitsu starts laughing uncontrollably. A little later, the doctor returns and informs them that they've recovered enough to continue their next mission. At that moment, the Kasugai Crow arrives and announces their next assignment. The three of them must head toward a mountain in the northeast region where multiple demon slayers have mysteriously disappeared as they leave the house. The old woman lights small sparks behind them as a good luck ritual. But Inosuke thinks she's attacking them and immediately tries to fight her. Tanjiro barely manages to stop him, while Zenitsu explains that it's just a traditional custom. Soon, the trio arrives near the terrifying mountain. The sun is already setting, and the entire forest feels cursed. Suddenly, Zenitsu stops walking and begins crying because he can sense something horrifying inside the mountain. He says he absolutely refuses to enter. But Tanjiro calmly tells him that no matter how scary it is, they still have to move forward. Meanwhile, Inosuke becomes excited because dangerous places only make him more hyped. The three finally step deeper into the forest. After walking for some time, Tanjiro suddenly notices a strange smell, and they soon discover an injured demon slayer lying on the ground. The terrified swordsman begs them for help, but the moment they try to approach him, strange threads attached to his back suddenly pull him high into the air. The demon slayer screams in terror, begging them not to let him die, before disappearing into the darkness. For the first time, Tanjiro's hands begin shaking because he senses an incredibly dangerous demon nearby. Even so, he gathers his courage and continues deeper into the forest. Soon, they realize the entire area is covered in spiderwebs. The atmosphere becomes darker and more disturbing with every step. Suddenly, Tanjiro thanks Inosuke. Confused, Inosuke asks why. Tanjiro admits that he was actually scared, but seeing Inosuke move forward fearlessly gave him courage too. Hearing this reminds Inosuke of the old woman who cared for him earlier. But before they can continue talking, they encounter another injured demon slayer. He explains that everyone in his squad suddenly started attacking each other like puppets. According to him, this mission is far too dangerous, and even Hashira-level demon slayers should have been sent instead. The moment Inosuke hears that, he punches the man in the face and yells that he's stronger than any Hashira at the same time. The Demon Slayer Corps realizes how serious the situation has become and begins preparing Hashira-level fighters for the mission. Meanwhile, Zenitsu is still outside, crying alone. He feels abandoned by Tanjiro and Inosuke. But then he suddenly remembers that Tanjiro took Nezuko's box into the mountain immediately. Despite being terrified, Zenitsu rushes into the forest with all his strength. Back inside the mountain, Tanjiro and Inosuke suddenly hear strange noises. Moments later, several demon slayers begin approaching them in horrifying ways. Their bodies move unnaturally, like puppets controlled by invisible strings. Tanjiro quickly realizes that some kind of demon is manipulating them using threads. Inosuke prepares to attack, but Tanjiro stops him because those people are still alive. Then Tanjiro notices spiderweb-like strings connected to their backs. He slices the threads apart with his sword, and they finally understand that giant spiderwebs are controlling everyone inside the forest. Suddenly, a creepy white demon appears high above the trees. Its body looks almost like a giant spider. The demon coldly says that he won't allow anyone to hurt his family. At that moment, Tanjiro realizes the horrifying truth. This isn't just a normal demon. It's an entire spider demon family. Inosuke immediately activates his beast breathing technique and uses his senses to locate the female demon controlling the webs. But none of them realize that the real nightmare has only just begun. If this video appeared on your screen, then congratulations, you're officially a real Demon Slayer fan. Because today we're entering one of the darkest moments in the Spider Demon family arc. And trust me, by the end of this episode, you might actually feel bad for a demon. So watch this video till the end, because the real nightmare inside the spider forest is finally about to begin. Hello anime lovers. Welcome back to another episode recap, and today we are going to watch the full recap of Demon Slayer episode 16. If you haven't watched the previous episodes yet, their links will be in the description below. So without wasting any time, let's jump straight into the story. In the previous episode, Tanjiro and Inosuke entered the terrifying spider forest where a mysterious female demon was controlling demon slayers like puppets using spider threads. Meanwhile, poor Zenitsu was wandering through the forest alone while desperately searching for Nezuko. The episode begins with Tanjiro and Inosuke still trapped between multiple controlled demon slayers. Inosuke immediately says they should just kill everyone and move forward. But Tanjiro refuses because those people are still humans. They're simply being controlled by a demon. Suddenly, one of the demon slayers attacks them, but Murata somehow manages to stop him. Murata tells Tanjiro that he should continue deeper into the mountain while he stays behind to help the others. Hearing this, Inosuke starts making fun of him and reminds everyone that Murata was the guy crying in fear earlier. But Murata seriously says that even though he was scared before, now he finally understands what he has to do. He realizes that cutting the strings is the only way to save those people. Tanjiro immediately notices that Murata has finally found his courage. Meanwhile, the spider demon mother keeps strengthening her webs. The closer Tanjiro gets to her, the stronger her puppet strings become. After moving deeper into the forest, they discover another group of injured demon slayers. One terrified girl warns them not to come any closer. She says that Hashira-level fighters should have been sent here instead. But suddenly, her body begins moving against her will. The spider mother was controlling her from far away like a puppet. At that moment, the creepy spider son appears beside the female demon and calls her mother. But the instant she hears his voice, she starts shaking in fear. The boy coldly says that she's taking too long, and if she fails again, he'll tell father about it. Hearing those words completely terrifies the spider mother. She desperately says that she'll kill everyone, as long as he doesn't tell father. That's when Tanjiro begins realizing that this family is completely broken. Everyone inside it is living in fear. Now the spider mother controls the strings even more aggressively. The crying girl is forced to attack Tanjiro with her sword. Tears flow from her eyes because her body no longer belongs to her. Then the spider mother sends two more injured demon slayers towards them. One of them painfully begs Inosuke to kill him because all the bones in his body have already been broken. He says the pain is unbearable and he'd rather die. Inosuke is about to do it, but Tanjiro stops him because Tanjiro refuses to give up on innocent people. A few moments later, Tanjiro suddenly comes up with an idea. He begins running through the forest while the controlled girl chases after him. Then, at the perfect moment, Tanjiro gently throws her onto a tree branch where she becomes stuck safely without getting hurt. Seeing this, Inosuke gets excited. He starts yelling, "I can do that too!" And then he begins hanging the other demon slayers on trees as well. But Tanjiro is so focused that he doesn't even notice Inosuke showing off. And somehow, that hurts Inosuke's feelings. Meanwhile, the Spider Mother starts panicking. She realizes she has no choice left except to use her strongest puppet. At the same time, Zenitsu is still wandering through the forest crying while searching for Nezuko. He keeps calling everyone's names one by one. Suddenly, his sparrow pecks his hand. Zenitsu instantly hugs the bird emotionally because he feels like even his bird hasn't abandoned him. Back inside the forest, Tanjiro and Inosuke suddenly encounter a giant, horrifying monster. The creature doesn't even have a head, but it's still moving through spider strings. Huge blades are attached to its arms, making it incredibly dangerous. Tanjiro quickly realizes they'll need to slash from its shoulder all the way down to its waist to defeat it. But before he can fully explain the plan, Inosuke recklessly charges in alone. The monster badly injures him, and small spiders trap his arms and legs. For the first time, Inosuke feels like he might actually die. But then Tanjiro suddenly appears and saves him. Tanjiro calmly tells him that they can defeat the monster together. Those words instantly bring back Inosuke's confidence. Tanjiro kneels down and tells Inosuke to climb onto his back. The two finally combine their strength and destroy the giant monster together. As the monster's body turns into smoke, the Spider Mother completely loses hope. Then, in classic Inosuke fashion, he throws Tanjiro high into the air. But while flying upward, Tanjiro suddenly catches the demon's scent, and within seconds, he lands directly in front of the Spider Mother. For the first time, the female demon stops resisting. Instead of fear, she suddenly feels relief. She realizes that if she dies today, she'll finally be free from all her suffering. So she lowers her arms and accepts death peacefully. Tanjiro understands that she's already broken inside. And instead of killing her brutally, he uses water breathing to give her a painless death. At that exact moment, light rain begins falling from the sky. As her head slowly fades away, tears begin flowing from her eyes because, for the first time in years, she feels peace instead of pain. She remembers her human past, a life where she was constantly abused and tortured by her cruel husband. Even her children were afraid of him. She had spent her entire existence living in fear now. While disappearing into dust, she looks into Tanjiro's kind eyes and remembers that someone once looked at her with the same warmth when she was human. But she can no longer remember who that person was. Before disappearing completely, she warns Tanjiro that one of the 12 Kazuki is somewhere inside the mountain. Tanjiro, thinking that if a member of the 12 Kazuki is truly here, then that demon must contain a huge amount of Muzan's blood. And if he can obtain that blood, Nezuko might finally be cured. But then, Tanjiro suddenly remembers that he left Inosuke behind in an injured state. He quickly returns to check on him. Even though blood was flowing from all over Inosuke's body, he still proudly says that he's perfectly fine because Inosuke never wants to appear weak. Tanjiro understands that his condition is actually terrible, but he's still trying his best to keep fighting. Meanwhile, on the other side of the mountain, poor Zenitsu is still wandering through the forest alone. Suddenly, he feels something bite him. When he looks down, he notices several tiny spiders crawling around him, but he still has no idea how dangerous they truly are. Then suddenly, a horrifying sound echoes behind him. Zenitsu slowly turns around and instantly freezes in terror, because standing behind him was a giant spider demon with a horrifying human-like face. Zenitsu immediately starts running away while screaming. As he runs, he begins praying to God. "If I survive this, I'll live happily with Nezuko forever." After running for a while, Zenitsu finally stops to catch his breath. But the moment he opens his eyes, he sees a horrifying scene that almost makes his heart stop. Several humans were trapped inside giant spider webs, and slowly transforming into spiders, Their eyes were still open, and the entire area looked like something straight out of a nightmare. Zenitsu starts shaking in fear. He even says that if Tanjiro were here, the smell alone would make him sick. Suddenly, a hanging house above him begins shaking, and the spider demon slowly crawls out. Its body looked completely like a giant spider. With one glowing red eye, the demon starts laughing after seeing Zenitsu. But Zenitsu immediately shouts, "Please don't start talking. I don't want to hear anything." The spider demon then calmly tells him that running away is pointless. Because Zenitsu has already lost, Zenitsu gets confused. Then the demon tells him to check his hand. And the moment Zenitsu looks at it, he becomes terrified. His hand had started turning purple. The spider demon laughs and explains that one of his poisonous spiders already bit him. Poison was now spreading throughout his body. The demon then explains, "After 10 minutes, your body will start feeling strange. After 20 minutes, you'll become dizzy. And within 24 hours, you'll completely transform into a spider." Hearing this completely breaks Zenitsu soon. Several spider creatures begin chasing him, and he starts running away once again. But the spider demon says there's no escape. Zenitsu quickly climbs up a tree, and while hiding there, memories from his past begin appearing in his mind. He remembers the harsh training sessions with his master. Zenitsu used to call him Gramps. He remembers how his girlfriend betrayed him, stole all his money, and ran away with another guy. And during that painful moment, only Gramps came to help him. Gramps never abandoned him. Zenitsu remembers how desperately he wanted to make his master proud. That's why he trained every single night. But deep inside, Zenitsu always believed he was weak. Then he remembers the day lightning struck him directly from the sky. And after surviving that accident, his hair permanently turned yellow. But even after surviving all of that, his life never changed. And because of that, Zenitsu slowly started hating himself. Back in the present, Zenitsu begins crying again. He feels like he worked hard his entire life, but still failed at everything. At that moment, the spider demon releases even more spiders toward him. Zenitsu grabs his hair in panic, but suddenly notices strands of hair falling out. Now he realizes the poison is spreading rapidly. After becoming completely overwhelmed by fear, Zenitsu finally faints. But that's exactly when the real monster inside him awakens. The moment he loses consciousness, his breathing suddenly changes. His face becomes calm, and his entire aura transforms. Even the spider demon becomes confused. Was this really the same cowardly boy? Zenitsu slowly prepares to use thunder-breathing first form. And at that moment, he remembers Gramps' words. It doesn't matter if you can only use one form. Just master that one thing so perfectly that the entire world remembers your name. In reality, thunder breathing had 6 forms. But Zenitsu could only use the first form, and everyone constantly mocked him because of it. Even another talented student of Gramps called him useless. But Gramps never gave up on Zenitsu. He trained him like a sword. A blade that becomes stronger every time it struck. Back in the present, the spider demon attacks once again. But this time, something inside Zenitsu had completely changed. Electricity suddenly bursts out of his body. All the spiders around him are blown away, and in the next second, Zenitsu enters his legendary battle stance. The entire forest lights up with lightning for the first time. The spider demon becomes afraid. And then Zenitsu unleashes thunder breathing. First form, thunderclap and flash. In the blink of an eye, he moves faster than lightning itself and slices through the spider demon. The demon's head is instantly cut off. Even while dying, the spider demon can't understand how someone who looked so weak could defeat him. Meanwhile, Zenitsu lands on top of the hanging house after the attack. The poison is still spreading through his body. He slowly opens his eyes. and wonders if everything that just happened was a dream. Then he quietly thanks Gramps for teaching him. His sparrow lands beside him and starts crying. Zenitsu apologizes to the bird and suddenly hears Gramps' voice again. Never give up. Zenitsu takes a deep breath and realizes that using breathing techniques can slow the spread of the poison. Meanwhile, on the other side of the mountain, Tanjiro and Inosuke hear the sound of thunder from far away. They immediately realize that Zenitsu must be fighting somewhere nearby. The two continue moving deeper into the forest. But suddenly, Tanjiro spots a female demon ahead. Inosuke instantly charges toward her. But the demon quickly screams for her father. And in the next second, a gigantic, terrifying spider father appears before them. Its massive body and glowing eyes looked like a true monster. The giant demon roars, "Stay away from my family!" And after seeing Spider Father, the entire forest turned into a nightmare. And the scariest part? That monster was now heading straight toward Tanjiro and Inosuke. The episode begins with Gyu and Shinobu finally arriving at the mountain. Everywhere around them, dead demon slayers were lying on the ground. Shinobu looks around and quietly says, "We were told many squads were sent here, but I don't think many children are still alive." The two Hashira then split up to deal with the situation faster. Meanwhile, Spider Father was brutally attacking Inosuke. His massive punches were strong enough to crush trees. Just when Inosuke was about to get hit again, Tanjiro jumps in and saves him. But the monster immediately swings its second arm toward Tanjiro. Tanjiro dodges and counterattacks. Yet his sword barely damages the demon's skin. It was way tougher than any demon he had faced before. The Spider Father then punches both of them away at the same time. Inosuke charges back in angrily, but the monster grabs him and throws him across the forest. Tanjiro quickly cuts down a giant tree and drops it onto the demon to save Inosuke. At first, Inosuke doesn't understand what happened, but then he realizes Tanjiro protected him again. Instead of thanking him, he yells, "This guy shows off way too much." Tanjiro understands that normal attacks won't work against this monster. He thinks to himself, "I'll have to use my strongest technique." He takes a deep breath, and his entire breathing changes. Even Inosuke can feel the pressure building around him. He thinks, whatever he's about to do, it's dangerous. But just as Tanjiro attacks, Spider Father suddenly disappears. Tanjiro's blade crashes into the tree instead, and the monster instantly punches him far into the air. While flying backward, Tanjiro shouts, "Inosuke, stay alive until I get back." On the other side of the mountain, Zenitsu was barely alive. The spider poison was spreading through his body. His vision slowly starts fading away. But then he remembers his master's words, "Never give up." Zenitsu forces his eyes open again. And at that moment, Shinobu appears beside him. She calmly asks, "Are you all right?" Meanwhile, Tanjiro falls from the sky, but he uses his breathing technique to slow his landing and survives. Then suddenly, he hears someone crying nearby. Tanjiro quietly follows the sound and discovers a terrifying scene. A male demon was abusing a female demon while calling it a family matter. The female demon looked terrified. The male demon notices Tanjiro and warns him, "This is our family matter. If you interfere, I'll tear you into pieces." Tanjiro smells the air around him and immediately realizes the truth. He says, "You're lying. Families are built on trust, but your smell only contains fear and hatred." Those words instantly make the demon furious. At that moment, another demon slayer suddenly appears and arrogantly says, "I can kill weak demons like this easily." But before anyone can react, the spider demon uses his threads and slices the demon slayer into pieces instantly. Tanjiro is completely shocked. This demon felt different from all the others. The air around him suddenly became heavy, like pure danger itself. Tanjiro thinks to himself, "Inosuke, forgive me. I have to defeat this demon first." Meanwhile, Inosuke continues fighting Spider Father alone. He keeps attacking over and over, but his swords can't properly cut through the monster's skin. For the first time, Inosuke begins to feel fear. Then, suddenly, he remembers Tanjiro's words, "Stay alive." And after that, he remembers the old woman telling him, "Live your life proudly. Always keep your head held high." Those memories give Inosuke strength again. He roars and challenges Spider Father one more time, but the monster smashes him away with a single attack. Then Spider Father destroys Inosuke's swords completely. Blood pours from Inosuke's body as he struggles to move. At that moment, he starts remembering his mother, the woman who abandoned him as a baby to save his life. Inosuke quietly wonders, who was she? And then, a sharp water slash suddenly cuts through the air. Giyu appears out of nowhere. With a single strike, he slices Spider Father's arm clean off. Inosuke stares at him in complete shock. He had never seen someone move that fast before. The Spider Father attacks again, but Giyu calmly swings his sword one more time. And the monster's body gets sliced into pieces instantly. Inosuke can only stare in disbelief. He thinks, "I've never seen anyone this powerful before." Tanjiro was facing Lower Moon 5, Rui. The entire forest was filled with his deadly threads. Razor-sharp webs were flying everywhere in the air, and escaping those threads seemed almost impossible. Tanjiro was standing in front of Rui with his broken sword. His hands were trembling. There were deep cuts on his body, and with every breath, the pain was increasing. Rui says with his creepy smile, "Will you still not give up?" And in the very next moment, he throws his deadly threads towards Tanjiro. Tanjiro somehow escapes those webs, but new wounds are formed on his body. Just then, he notices that his sword has also cracked. Tanjiro looks at his sword in shock. He apologizes to his swordsmith in his heart. Over on the other side, Inosuke was still fighting the Spider Father. But then, suddenly, Giyu appears in front of him, and without putting in any effort, cuts off the Spider Father's hand in just one slash. Inosuke's eyes are left wide open. He doesn't understand at all how a human can move with such speed. The Spider Father tries to attack again, but Giyu again calmly swings his sword, and this time, the entire monster is cut into pieces. Inosuke is completely shocked. He thinks, "I have never seen anyone this powerful until today." But in the very next moment, his ego comes back. He stops Giyu by shouting at him, "Wait, I have to fight you. If I defeat you, then I will become the strongest demon slayer." Giyu doesn't even look at him. He just says in a calm voice, "I have a better idea. Go and train more." This hits straight to Inosuke's heart. He goes to say something in anger, but in the very next moment, Giyu ties him up with a rope and hangs him from a tree. Inosuke starts screaming, "Hey, untie me, I can still fight." But Giyu walks forward without looking back. Over there, Zenitsu was lying between death and life. The spider poison was spreading rapidly through his body. His breathing starts getting heavy. Darkness begins to cover his eyes. Just then, he hears his Gramps' voice, "Never give up." Zenitsu slowly begins to breathe so that the effect of the poison can decrease. And just then, Shinobu arrives there. Looking at Zenitsu's condition, she understands that he has kept himself alive until now with his breathing. Shinobu says with a smile, "If you hadn't done that, you would have turned into a spider by now." Then she takes out an antidote injection and directly injects it into Zenitsu's hand. Zenitsu screams in pain. Over there, back towards Rui, Tanjiro stands up for the fight again. But Rui's threads were so dangerous that they seemed to predict Tanjiro's movements themselves. Tanjiro thinks if I cut his threads, then maybe I can reach his neck. But Rui suddenly notices Nezuko, His eyes widen, and he asks in a trembling voice, "Is this your sister?" Tanjiro immediately replies, "Yes, she is my sister." Rui now stares at Nezuko. For the first time, he had seen true love between a brother and sister, and this very thing makes him obsessed. Suddenly, Rui turns towards his fake sister. She was trembling out of fear, but Rui cuts her neck with his threads. His fake sister begs for one more chance while crying, but Rui says, in a cold voice, "If you want to be a family, then play your role." Then he turns towards Tanjiro, "Give your sister to me, and I will leave you alive." Hearing this, anger fills Tanjiro's eyes. He shouts, "Nezuko is not an object. She has emotions, feelings. She will never become your sister." Rui's face becomes terrifying. He moves his hair, and the number of Lower Moon 5 appears in his eye. Tanjiro understands. This is the most dangerous demon he has fought so far. Suddenly, Rui captures Nezuko in the air with his threads. The web was so tight that blood starts coming out of Nezuko's body. Tanjiro panics. He begs Rui to leave her, but Rui says with a cold smile, "Now I am her big brother. She will listen to me." Hearing this, Tanjiro becomes completely furious. He activates full concentration breathing. A water dragon starts forming around him. Rui was confident at first, but now, for the first time, he starts to feel fear. Tanjiro uses water breathing. 10th form constant flux. His water dragon becomes even bigger and more powerful. But Rui also activates his blood demon art. Blood starts flowing from his hands, and that same blood spreads into his threads. Now all the threads had turned blood red, and they had become many times sharper than before. The entire forest gets filled with red webs. Tanjiro starts seeing death everywhere. Just then, he remembers his childhood. He and Nezuko are playing in the snow. And far away, his father is performing the Hinokami Kagura dance. His father was very weak, yet he was dancing without stopping. Tanjiro thinks in such cold for so long. How is he able to do this? Just then, his father tells him the secret of the breathing technique. As soon as he comes back to the present, Tanjiro's breathing begins to change. His entire aura becomes like fire. He uses Hinokami Kagura for the first time. Now his water dragon had turned into fire. Tanjiro starts moving towards Rui, cutting all his blood threads. Over there, Nezuko also hears her mother's voice. "Save your brother." Hearing this, Nezuko activates her blood demon art for the first time. Her blood becomes fire and starts burning Rui's threads. Now both the brother and sister were fighting together. Tanjiro moves towards Rui with full speed and finally cuts off his neck. Rui is left in shock, and Tanjiro shouts in anger, "No one can break the bond of us brother and sister." Rui's head goes flying far away in the air and falls, and Tanjiro, also completely exhausted, falls to the ground. His breathing was heavy, his entire body was injured, and even his hands were trembling. Nezuko, also getting freed from Rui's deadly threads, falls down. Tanjiro feels a sigh of relief seeing her and slowly starts moving towards her. He thinks that, finally, he has ended this nightmare. In Tanjiro's mind, his father's dance was still spinning. He was now beginning to understand that Hinokami Kagura was not just some ritual, but a powerful breathing style that saved his life today. But just then, suddenly Tanjiro's eyes widen. He feels Rui's smell behind him again. Tanjiro slowly turns back, and his heart sinks. Rui's body was still standing, and his head was hanging in the air by his own threads. Rui says, while laughing, "Were you really thinking that you could kill me?" Then he reveals that the exact moment Tanjiro was about to cut his neck, at that very moment, he separated his own head with his threads, meaning Tanjiro's attack actually could not kill him at all. Tanjiro breaks down from inside. His sword was already broken, his breathing was disrupted, and now there was no strength left in his body to fight. But Rui was now completely furious. He says, "Now, I will finish both you and your sister." Suddenly, Rui uses his blood demon art. Deadly red-colored threads start coming out of his hands. These threads were more dangerous than ever before, because now, Rui's blood was mixed in them. Wherever those threads went, even trees and stones started getting cut. Tanjiro understands that if this attack reaches him, his body will be divided into pieces. Even then, he tries to stand in front of Nezuko. His legs were trembling, but he did not want his sister to get hurt. Then suddenly, swoosh! All of Rui's threads get cut in the air and disappear. Tanjiro looks up in shock, and standing in front of him was the water Hashira, Gyuryu Tomioka. The entire forest suddenly becomes silent. Gyu's presence was so powerful that Rui starts to feel fear for the first time. Gyu says, in a calm voice, "You did very well. Now leave the rest to me." Rui goes crazy with anger. He immediately uses his strongest attack cutting thread rotation. Thousands of razor-sharp threads move spinning towards Gyu. Their speed was so high that even the air was getting cut. But Gyu stands absolutely calm, holding his sword. Then he says, softly, "Water breathing. 11th form. Dead calm." Suddenly, the entire atmosphere changes. The air becomes calm. The sound of the trees stops, and all of Rui's threads get cut and scattered before even reaching Gyu. Rui goes into shock. He doesn't understand at all how his strongest attacks just ended like this. And in the very next moment, Gyu reaches in front of him. Swoosh! Such a clean slash that Rui cannot even react. His head slowly separates from the body and falls down. This time, Rui had truly lost. On the other side, Rui's fake sister was running in the forest. She was trembling out of fear, because Rui had ordered her to kill all the demon slayers. While running, she starts remembering her past. In reality, she was a normal demon before, who was constantly running from other demon slayers. One night, she was running through the forest in a badly injured condition. She felt that now she won't be able to survive. Just then, she met Rui. Rui saved her, but in return, took away her whole life. He made her strong with his blood, then changed her face to make her like his fake family. Slowly, she understood that Rui's entire family was fake. There was no real relationship. All the demons were living with him only out of Rui's fear. If anyone did not listen to him, Rui used to torture them. Rui used to punish her fake mother every day too. Sometimes he would beat her, sometimes choke her, and sometimes cut her body with threads. In reality, Rui did want a family, but he didn't even know the meaning of family. Then one day, Rui's fake sister decided that she would run away from there. She tells the other demon girl to come along too. Both start running silently from the forest at night. But just then, Rui appears in front of them. Anger was clearly visible in Rui's eyes. He did not like his fake family running away at all. In the very next moment, he ties his sister with threads and hangs her outside the house, and as soon as the sun rises in the morning, that demon burns to death. Seeing this, the other demon gets completely terrified. She understands that escaping from Rui is impossible. Over there in the forest, Shinobu Kocho was searching for her. Then, suddenly, Shinobu comes and stands behind her. She says, with a smile, "The moon is very beautiful tonight, isn't it?" The demon gets panicked and attacks immediately. But Shinobu was so fast that she dodges all attacks like a butterfly. Then Shinobu asks her, "Can you and I become friends?" The demon gets confused. She thinks maybe Shinobu will let her go. But just then, Shinobu asks her how many humans she has killed. The demon tells a lie. But Shinobu understands immediately. Even then, she says with a smile, "If you suffer the punishment for all your sins, then maybe we can become friends." In the very next moment, Shinobu uses her insect breathing. She moves so fast that the demon cannot even see her. And then, Shinobu stabs her poisonous sword into her body. The demon starts getting happy because her head was not cut. She feels that she will survive. But just then, her body starts burning from inside. Her breathing starts to stop, and she falls to the ground, writhing in pain. Shinobu says with a smile, "I kill demons with poison." Within a few seconds, that demon dies because of the poison. Over there, Tanjiro was still sitting near Nezuko in an injured condition. And there Rui, while dying, was thinking about his past. He remembers that he wanted only one thing, a real family. But fear, loneliness, and the hunger for power turned him into a monster. But now, the real truth was about to come out. The episode begins with Rui's past. In his childhood, Rui was a very weak human. He was so weak that he could not even walk properly. Outside, children used to play in the snow, but Rui would only keep watching them from afar. One day, he tries to go near the children, but falls down right on the way and starts coughing heavily. Just then, his mother comes running, picks him up in her arms, and takes him inside the house. Rui tells that since childhood, his body was very weak. He always used to stay sick. But then, one day, his life completely changed. Because on that very day, Muzan Kibutsuji came into his room. Muzan turned Rui into a demon. Now Rui had strength, speed, power. But in return, he had to drink human blood. His parents were very sad about this. They wanted to save their son, but Rui had slowly started killing humans. Rui liked a story very much, in which a father gives his own life to save his son. Rui used to think that this is what family means, giving one's life for each other. And maybe because of this reason, he always wanted a perfect family. Subtly though, one night everything changed. Rui's parents come into his room. His mother was crying, and his father stands there with a knife in his hand. In reality, they had come to kill Rui, so that he could not harm more people. But at that very moment, Rui wakes up. Rui gets scared, and without thinking, attacks his own parents. Within a few seconds, his own parents die right in front of him. Before dying, his mother says while crying, "Forgive us. We could not give you a healthy body." Hearing this, Rui gets shocked. He understands that his parents did not hate him. They loved him. And after Rui's death, they were going to die themselves too, so that they could also suffer the punishment for their son's sins. But Rui ended everything in anger. He broke his own family himself. Just then, Muzan comes in front of him again and manipulates Rui. He says, "It was not your fault in this. Your parents were weak." Slowly, Rui starts explaining this exact lie to himself. But deep inside, he missed his parents every single day. That is why he made his fake family, so that he could feel the sense of a family again. Coming back to the present, Rui's head had been cut, but his body was still moving towards Tanjiro and Nezuko. Then suddenly, his body falls down. Tanjiro senses a sorrowful smell coming from near Rui. He realizes how broken Rui was from inside. Tanjiro slowly places his hand on Rui's body. Rui feels that hand exactly like the warmth of the sun. And then, Rui slowly starts turning into ashes. At that same time, Rui starts remembering his parents again. He realizes how big a sin he has committed. He says, while crying, "I will go to hell, because I killed my parents." But just then, he hears his father's voice. Rui opens his eyes and sees that his parents are standing in front of him. His father says, "We will always be with you, even if we have to go to hell." Hearing this, Rui bursts into tears and starts crying heavily. His face becomes like a human again. And he asks for forgiveness from his parents. Then all three go into the darkness together. Over here, Giyu now comes near Tanjiro. Standing on Rui's clothes, he says, "He was a demon. You should not feel sad for him." But Tanjiro replies, "I hate demons, but if someone is regretting what they did, then I cannot leave them alone." Giyu becomes silent hearing this. Just then, his eyes fall on Nezuko. And he remembers that he has met these two before as well. But then, suddenly, butterflies start flying in the air. And in the very next moment, Shinobu Kocho arrives there. Shinobu, without thinking anything, tries to kill Nezuko. But Giyu immediately stops her attack. Shinobu gets shocked. She says, "Why are you saving a demon?" Then she says with a smile, "Maybe that is why nobody likes you." Giyu gives a straight reply, "I don't think anyone dislikes me." On the other side, Tanjiro quickly picks up Nezuko and starts running. His entire body was injured. He was barely able to stand. But still, he did not want to stop. He thinks, if I stop, Nezuko will die. Shinobu immediately takes off after him. Giyu also tries to stop her. But Shinobu moves ahead like the wind. While running, suddenly another demon slayer comes in front of Tanjiro. She gives a powerful kick to Tanjiro, and Nezuko falls down. Tanjiro understands that she has also come with the Hashira. He tells Nezuko to run. Nezuko immediately shrinks her body and becomes like a small little girl and starts running fast. That demon slayer attacks again and again, but Nezuko only keeps dodging. She does not turn back to attack even once. On the other side, an argument was going on between Shinobu and Giyu. Shinobu says, "Our job is to kill demons. Then why are you stopping me?" Giyu replies that there is a reason behind this, but Shinobu stops him in the middle itself and starts making fun of him. Just then, suddenly, Kasugai crows come flying in the sky, and they make an announcement throughout the entire mountain. All Hashiras return immediately. Now the demon slayer chasing Nezuko also stops. Tanjiro had become unconscious, so he doesn't get to know anything. Over there, Inosuke was still tied to the tree. Some workers get scared seeing him. They think that maybe this is some demon. But when they try to remove his mask, then it is revealed that there is a human behind it. In reality, Inosuke was completely broken from inside. He was thinking that he could not kill any demon by himself, and in front of the Hashira, he was nothing. On the other side, Zenitsu regains consciousness. He finds himself wrapped in bandages, and in front of him stands the same girl who was with him in the final selection. Her name was Kanao Tsuyuri. Zenitsu sees the workers of the Butterfly Mansion for the first time. These were the people who used to help injured demon slayers after the battle ended. Slowly, it becomes morning. Everyone starts returning down from the mountain. Tanjiro was in an unconscious state, but he hears someone's voice. Suddenly, he opens his eyes and sees that many people are standing in front of him. These were no ordinary people. These were the most powerful Hashiras of the Demon Slayer Corps. Tanjiro asks in panic, "Who are these people?" Just then, a Kikuchi member standing nearby tells him, "They all are Hashiras, the most powerful fighters of the Demon Slayer Corps." Hearing this, Tanjiro understands that the situation is very dangerous. He immediately starts searching for Nezuko, but he cannot see Nezuko anywhere. Just then, the wind Hashira, Sanemi, says in anger, "End the talk now. This boy and that demon should be killed immediately." Some Hashiras agree with his words, because according to the rules of the Demon Slayer Corps, protecting a demon was the biggest crime. Just then, Shinobu says, "Let's listen to his side of the story first." She asks Tanjiro, "Why exactly are you traveling around with a demon?" Tanjiro replies in a weak voice, "She is not an ordinary demon. She is my sister." The entire atmosphere suddenly becomes silent. Tanjiro further tells that Muzan had killed his family, and Nezuko was the only one left alive. He says, "Nezuko has not harmed a single human till today. I will turn her into a human again." But Sanemi did not believe his words at all. He says, in anger, "A demon will always remain a demon." Tanjiro also gets angry. He screams and says, "If anyone hurts Nezuko, I don't care whether a Hashira is in front of me or anyone else." Hearing this, all the Hashiras get shocked. Then suddenly, Tanjiro directly hits Sanemi with a headbutt. Sanemi falls to the ground. The entire area becomes completely silent. Tanjiro says in anger, "If you don't know the difference between a human and a demon, then you have no right to be a Hashira." At that same time, two small girls come there and announce, "The master is arriving." Hearing this, all the Hashiras immediately become quiet. Then Kagaya Ubuyashiki, the leader of the Demon Slayer Corps, arrives there. His eyes were weak, and two girls were supporting him as they brought him out. As soon as he arrives, all the Hashiras immediately bowed down. Tanjiro understands that he is the master of the entire corps. The master says, in a calm voice, "I know everything." Then he reveals that Giyu and Urokodaki have already sent a letter. In that letter, it was written that if Nezuko ever attacks any human, then Giyu and Urokodaki will give up their own lives. Hearing this, some Hashiras get emotional, but Sanemi was still not ready to agree. He says in anger, no demon can live with humans. Right then, he pulls out his sword and makes a deep cut on his own hand. His blood starts flowing, and its smell spreads throughout the entire area. Now, Sanemi starts dropping his blood onto Nezuko's box. Tanjiro gets terrified and tries to run towards the box, but falls down due to being injured. Sanemi picks up the box and takes it inside the room. Then, to provoke Nezuko, he brings his blood in front of her again. Slowly, the box begins to open, and Nezuko starts coming out. Her eyes get fixed directly on Sanemi's blood. Her mouth starts to water. The entire atmosphere gets filled with fear. The smell of human blood starts spreading in front of Nezuko. Her eyes begin to change. Her teeth start coming out, and it felt like she would lose control of herself at any moment. Over there, Tanjiro was trying to free himself with all his strength, but he was tied up in ropes. Shinobu stops him and says, "If you use your breathing technique right now, your body will get damaged even more." But Tanjiro was in no mood to listen to anyone. He screams, "Get away from Nezuko!" Then suddenly, Tanjiro, putting in his entire strength, breaks the bonds. Over there, Giyu immediately grabs Sanemi's hand so that he cannot go near Nezuko. Now, the eyes of all the Hashiras were only on Nezuko. Everyone was thinking that now she will definitely attack the human. But just then, Nezuko starts remembering the things of her past. He hears Tanjiro's voice. She remembers Urokodaki's training. And the memories of her family start coming back. She remembers those words, "Protect humans. Never harm any human." As soon as these memories come into Nezuko's mind, she suddenly turns her face to the other side. The entire Hashira group gets shocked. Nezuko did not attack even after seeing human blood. Just then, Master Kagaya asks those two small girls what happened. They reveal that Sanemi injured Nezuko 3 times. She also got the smell of human blood. Even then, she did not try to bite any human. Hearing this, the entire atmosphere becomes quiet for a few moments. The master says with a smile, "Then the problem is solved." Hearing this, Tanjiro feels a sigh of relief. But Sanemi was still in anger. He still did not trust Nezuko. Just then, the master says to all the Hashiras, "From now on, Nezuko and Tanjiro will remain a part of the Demon Slayer Corps." Some Hashiras were not happy with this decision, but no one could go against the words of the master. After this, everyone starts leaving from there. The master then looks towards Tanjiro and says, "You still have to become very strong." Over there, Shinobu decides to take Tanjiro and everyone else to the Butterfly Mansion. After some time, Tanjiro reaches the mansion. There was silence everywhere. Butterflies were flying, and the entire place was looking extremely beautiful. Just then, a girl comes there whose name was Aoi. She tells Tanjiro to come inside. Now we see Zenitsu. He was crying out loud because he had to drink medicine. Zenitsu screams, "I will not drink this bitter medicine." Just then, it is revealed that due to the spider poison, his body was still not completely healed. Meanwhile, Inosuke was sitting quietly on the other side. After the Battle of Mount Nadagumo, his confidence was completely shattered. He was thinking, "How can I be so weak?" Tanjiro motivates him and says, "We all will become stronger slowly." After this, Tanjiro sits near Nezuko's box. He says softly, "I promise, I will turn you into a human again." Over on the other side, the Hashira meeting was going on. Everyone was talking about the upper-ranked demons. One Hashira says, The activities of the demons are increasing more than before. Another one says now it is becoming even more difficult to stop them. Just then, everyone feels the fear of Muzan Kibutsuji. After the meeting ends, the master looks at the sky alone. He says to himself, the darkness is increasing even more. In front of him now, such a training was about to come, which would break his entire limits. The episode begins from the Butterfly Mansion. The small girls of that place ask Tanjiro, "Are you guys going on a new mission soon?" Tanjiro says with a smile. "Yes, but before that, we have to become even stronger." Just then, Aoi comes there and gives medicine to everyone. Zenitsu immediately gets panicked and starts screaming, "I will not drink this medicine. This is very bitter." But Aoi says in anger, "If you don't drink the medicine, your hands and legs will always remain like this." Hearing this, Zenitsu, out of fear, immediately drinks the medicine. Then Zenitsu starts remembering the things of the Mount Natagumo mission. He says, while crying, "I was called to the Hashira meeting. Everyone was so terrifying." He tells that the Hashiras were asking them again and again who trained them. Just then, suddenly Shinobu arrives there. Zenitsu, as soon as he sees her, runs away out of fear. Shinobu then asks Tanjiro and Inosuke, "How are you feeling now?" Tanjiro replies, "We are much better than before." Then Shinobu says with a smile, "So now, let's start the rehabilitation training." After this, the training montage begins. Tanjiro thinks, "We have been training continuously for the last 2 weeks, but I have never seen such a training before." First of all, stretching exercises take place, then balance training. After that, reflex training. Water is kept in cups in front of them, and they have to move with such speed that the water does not spill. But Inosuke used to try to do everything with force. In one exercise, he jumps directly and falls far away. Tanjiro stops him and says, "You have to learn control first." Just then, Zenitsu suddenly says to Tanjiro in anger, "The one who should apologize is you." Tanjiro gets confused. Zenitsu says while crying, "You stay with girls the whole day. Beautiful girls do your massage. Your life is going on in full enjoyment." Hearing this, Tanjiro gets completely shocked. Then Zenitsu and Inosuke start fighting with each other. Over there, Kanao was silently doing her training. Her speed was still the highest. Just then, the special reflex game begins. In this game, they had to catch Kanao. Zenitsu fails in his very first attempt. Inosuke also loses. But Tanjiro slowly starts understanding Kanao's movements. After a few days, Zenitsu and Inosuke quit the training. They felt that this is impossible. But Tanjiro does not give up. Every night, he keeps practicing alone. Just then, the small girls of the mansion ask him, "Do you always use total concentration breathing?" Tanjiro asks in shock. "Do the Hashira people do this all the time?" The girls reveal that strong demon slayers always keep total concentration breathing active. Hearing this, Tanjiro understands that, because of this reason, the Hashiras are so powerful. Now, he starts the practice of that exact technique day and night. But in the beginning, his condition becomes very bad. His chest starts hurting, voices start coming in his ears, and he feels like his body will burst. Even then, he does not stop. He says to himself, "If I have to become stronger, then I must master this." Slowly, his breathing begins to improve. Over there, the small girls bring rice balls for him so that he can continue the training. Then they show special gourds to Tanjiro. These were big jars that had to be broken using only the power of breath. Tanjiro asks in shock, "Can a human break these?" Just then, the girls reveal that Kanao has already broken them. Hearing this, motivation comes inside Tanjiro again. Now, he starts working even harder than before. At night, sitting on the roof of the mansion, he keeps continuously practicing total concentration breathing. Just then, suddenly Shinobu comes to him. She says to Tanjiro, "You are working very hard." Tanjiro replies, "Once I master this, then I will teach Zenitsu and Inosuke as well." Hearing this, Shinobu smiles lightly. Then she talks to Tanjiro about her dream. Shinobu says, "My elder sister wanted that the demons and humans could become friends." Tanjiro notices that Shinobu always smiles, but inside her, a lot of anger is hidden. Then Tanjiro asks her, "Are you always angry?" Hearing this, Shinobu becomes silent for a few moments. Then she reveals that demons had killed her elder sister. She says, "Whenever I see any human crying because of demons, my anger increases even more." But her sister always wanted that demons and humans understand each other. Then Shinobu says to Tanjiro, "You can probably do what I could not do." After this, she leaves from there. Tanjiro looks towards the sky and says to himself, "I will definitely turn Nezuko into a human." Tanjiro says to the small girls, "If I stop total concentration breathing while sleeping, then hit me with this stick." At night, when Tanjiro is sleeping, just then, he starts snoring, and in the very next moment, the small girls hit him with the stick. Tanjiro wakes up immediately and starts the breathing technique again. Slowly, his body starts putting this technique into habit. The next day during training, Tanjiro himself feels that his stamina has increased a lot compared to before. Over there, the reflex training with Kanao begins again. This time, Tanjiro gives her a tough competition. He almost catches Kanao's hand, but Kanao steps back in the very last second. Tanjiro goes and falls straight down. On the other side, Zenitsu and Inosuke were standing far away, watching all this. But both of them were still not joining the training. The next day, Tanjiro finally breaks a gourd. The small girls start screaming with joy. Over there, Zenitsu says, out of fear, "I am not doing the training because I am scared that I will fail." Inosuke also looks serious for the first time. Then Tanjiro explains to both of them about total concentration breathing. He tells that with this technique, both stamina and power increase many times over. Zenitsu and Inosuke try to attempt this, but their condition becomes bad immediately. Strange sounds start coming out of their mouths. Just then, Kanao comes there. She says while teasing Inosuke, "I thought this would be child's play for you." Hearing this, Inosuke loses his temper. "I will show you by doing it." Over there, the small girls motivate Zenitsu. Now all three start the training with full strength. After some time, Kanao sits alone and takes out her coin. And just then, her painful past is shown. Kanao was very poor in her childhood. Her parents used to beat her a lot. Slowly, the emotions inside her started to end. Then one day, her parents sell her. But Kanao does not feel anything. Just then, Shinobu and her elder sister Kane reach there. She asks that man, "Why have you tied this girl up?" That man says, "If you want her, then buy her." Hearing this, Kane throws all the money in the air and takes Kanao along with her. But Kanao still does not show any emotion. Kane says to her, "You will have to learn to take decisions for yourself for everything." Just then, she gives her a coin and says, "When you don't understand, then toss the coin." After that day, Kanao starts taking every decision by a coin toss. Coming back to the present, Tanjiro looks at Kanao and understands how broken she is from inside. Over there, suddenly Kasugai Crow brings new news. He announces that Tanjiro's swordsmith is coming to meet him. Just a little later, Nezuko reaches the mansion. As soon as he sees Tanjiro, he attacks him in anger. "You broke the sword made by me!" Tanjiro starts running out of fear, but Nezuko goes after him. Over there, the other swordsmith tells that Nezuko is normally not this attached to anyone, but he was very hurt by Tanjiro's sword breaking. Then Haganazuka, in anger, starts hitting his sword on a stone. Everyone gets shocked seeing him. The next day, training begins again. This time, Tanjiro finally defeats Kanao in the reflex game. He becomes successful in catching Kanao's hand. Zenitsu and Inosuke get completely shocked seeing this. Now both start working even harder than before. After some time, Aoi says to Tanjiro, "Now you have recovered completely. You can go on the next mission." Just then, Tanjiro asks Shinobu, "Have you heard about Hinokami Kagura?" Shinobu says that she does not know much about it, but flame breathing definitely exists. She tells Tanjiro that maybe the flame Hashira, Kyojuro Rengoku, knows something about this. Hearing this, Tanjiro gets excited. At night, he sits near Nezuko. Nezuko was still sleeping. Tanjiro says softly, "I know you are strong, but I will definitely turn you back into a human." Then he says with a smile, "And next time, both of us will go on the mission together." The episode begins from the Butterfly Mansion. Tanjiro was again doing reflex training with Kanao, but this time, something was different. Now Tanjiro had become much faster than before. He was giving Kanao a neck-and-neck competition. Just then, Aoi says to Tanjiro, "Your score now is 10 wins and 10 losses." Seeing Tanjiro's growth, everyone was shocked. But then suddenly the scene changes. Now we are shown a dark place where the members of the lower rank 12 Kazuki were present. One demon was thinking out of fear, "Why have we been called here?" Just then, a beautiful woman appears in front of him. But in the very next moment, hearing that voice, all the demons start trembling with fear, because she was no one else. Rather, it was Muzan Kibutsuji. He had changed his appearance. Muzan says to all the demons, "Lower 5 has been killed." His name was Rui. Then he asks in anger, "Why are you lower ranked demons so weak?" The entire room gets filled with fear. Muzan says, "The upper ranks have not changed for the last 100 years. But you guys get replaced again and again." One demon thinks to himself, "It is easy to say." But just then, Muzan reads his mind. He asks softly, "What is the reality?" And in the very next moment, Muzan kills him with his power. The remaining demons start trembling with fear. Then Muzan, one by one, starts killing the other lower-ranked demons as well. One demon tries to run away, but Muzan catches him too. Now in the end, only one demon survives. Out of fear, he starts praising Muzan. Then Muzan injects a few drops of his blood inside him. He says, "If you survive this blood, then you will become far more powerful than before." Then Muzan gives him a mission. Find that demon slayer who wears Hanafuda earrings. Hearing this, Tanjiro's face appears in that demon's mind. The scene comes back to the Butterfly Mansion. Just then, a crow comes to Tanjiro and his companions. He announces, "More than 40 passengers have vanished from a mysterious train." Then the crow tells, "You will have to assist the flame Hashira, Kyojuro Rengoku." Now their next mission was about to begin. On the other side, Master Kagaya was talking to Shinobu. He asks, "Why did you recommend Tanjiro for this mission?" Shinobu says with a smile, "Tanjiro's soul is very pure. He has determination inside him, and his goal is absolutely clear." Then she reveals that Tanjiro's father used to use a technique like fire breathing. The master says softly, "I feel Tanjiro's destiny itself is to defeat Muzan." Over there, Tanjiro was going towards his room. Just then, he sees the boy from the final selection. Tanjiro talks to him happily, but he leaves from there without saying anything. Then Tanjiro goes to meet Aoi. Aoi says, "It is a good thing that you are going on a mission. Take care of yourself." Tanjiro thanks her and says, "You helped me a lot." Then Tanjiro, searching for Kanao, reaches her. He says thank you to Kanao, but Kanao says, "I was just following orders." Then Tanjiro asks her about her coin. Kanao reveals, "I take every decision by a coin toss, because nothing matters to me." Hearing this, Tanjiro gets shocked. Then he says to Kanao, a human being also has their own wish. After this, Tanjiro tosses her coin. He says, "If heads comes, then from today onwards, you will listen to the voice of your heart." The coin spins in the air. And then, heads comes. Tanjiro happily catches Kanao's hand. He says, "The heart itself gives humans the strength to move forward. Therefore, make your heart strong." For the first time, emotion is visible on Kanao's face. Then Tanjiro and everyone else become successful in breaking the gourds during training. The small girls cheer for them. After this, Tanjiro meets Giyu. He says thank you to Giyu for saving Nezuko, but Giyu only says this much: "Keep doing good work. That itself will be thanks for me." After some time, everyone reaches the railway station. Inosuke gets excited seeing the train for the first time. He screams, "This must be the boss of this place." Then he hits the train with his head. Zenitsu immediately tries to stop him. But just then, the police reach there, because they had seen their swords. Zenitsu starts running, taking everyone else along. Then he tells, the government does not officially recognize the Demon Slayers. Meanwhile, the train starts moving. Tanjiro, Zenitsu, and Inosuke run behind it with all their strength and catch the train in the very last second. Zenitsu asks out of fear, "Is it safe to bring Nezuko along?" Tanjiro says with a smile, "Nezuko and I will always stay together. We can never be separated." And with this, Season 1 ends right here. But the real nightmare was about to begin now.